Then I should be good here. Um,
Mhm.
so you didn't have classes today or anything?
Nah, and I'm off too. I'm off tomorrow too because it's MLK Day, but I go back on Tuesday.
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, I don't have classes tomorrow either, or anything like that. When did you start classes? When did you start school?
We started, yeah, just this past week. So I went on Monday. I went almost every single day. I go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on campus, and I'm off Friday. So typically it'll be a 3-day weekend. This time it's a 4-day weekend, so I'm gonna enjoy sleeping in like a motherfucker tomorrow. But
Yeah, I bet.
yeah, it's a big. We just came back this week though, so
Nice, nice. What are you going for again in your degree?
it's journalism. I'm in like the sports broadcasting journalism realm, so like especially like pursuing like sports commentary and everything and shit like that. Maybe an analyst or talk show host, but like being in sports broadcasting, but I'm in journalism.
Yeah, that's really cool though, man. Because I know you're like super super into sports and you're really incredibly
Sir,
passionate about it. I mean, you were telling me about how you had that. You were doing the Kingpin days back then. Um, on your Instagram
sir,
that you
dude.
used to have. You said it got really popular too, didn't it?
I know. It went up to, geez, Kingpin at its peak was almost at 10K if it didn't pass it before Instagram completely, I mean, kamikazed my account and nuked my account. I mean, that sucked. But I learned a lot from that though, how to build a brand and everything from that. So I can't even say that's a complete loss. You definitely took a lesson away from that, but.
No, yeah, I mean, for sure. Social media is just kind of in a. Did you hear about them potentially banning TikTok in America?
Oh, dude, how many years are we gonna do that? This will be 5 years because
Yeah.
at the end of by the time we get to fall of 2018, that's 5 years in a row, dude. Like you're either gonna do it or you're not. If they don't, though, you know what's so funny is Instagram or I mean, dang, Instagram probably makes Reels its own platform or something, or somebody's gonna capitalize on some shit like that anyway. There's just gonna be another one that goes right behind TikTok that just capitalizes on the states.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think it's just gotten too popular here in America that we would actually, we would fully ban it. Like, um,
Yeah, I don't think
I
right
don't
here.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I got like messaged though from like a bunch of people saying, "Oh, your TikTok's gonna go away. You better figure out what you're gonna do next." Blah blah blah. And I'm kind of like, well, I'm just gonna ride this out, I guess, until that
Yeah, I mean,
eventually
we're
dies.
saying that in 2019 now too, dude. It's 2023. It's like so.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's still not banned. I just know they banned it in a bunch of other countries too, but I definitely don't think that's actually gonna happen. But that's
Mhm.
cool, man. So what year are you on for journalism then?
So this is technically year 5. I'm a senior though because it would be year 4. Everybody who was a senior, because I graduated high school in 18, so everybody who was a senior, like in my class, not everybody, but a surplus of people ended up doing part time because we were like, dude, we're not going to be full time students during the pandemic. Obviously, when everything that happened. Dude, can you believe it's been 3 years since like COVID? Like, it just does not feel like it. Like 2020 was really 3 years ago, bro.
I know,
Like it's
yeah.
like
I know it's been
bro.
wild, like to even like think back. I remember when COVID first started happening, and like I went into a grocery store. We in New York we have these grocery stores called Wegmans, and I would go in
Mhm.
there and dude, people were like onslaught panicking, like looting everything, like ripping through the store. People were fucking threatening people and shit. Like it got like real intense. Like I got out of there quick. Like some dude beat the fuck out of someone in the line because he had like coughed on him. Like this was like at the very start when all this was like happening, and everything was incredibly unknown and incredibly creepy and weird to everyone, and everyone was just in full blown panic mode.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's what COVID did. Like, honestly, what COVID did though, and like, I say it jokingly, but I mean it too. Like, I used to tell my friends, I was like, dude, if there was ever any type of like, I don't know, like any type of other airborne, almost zombie apocalypse type thing, like you would really see how the fuck people act because I mean, during a pandemic like that, for people to carry themselves in that manner and for things to go out in the, full mayhem like that kind of showed a lot of true colors, if we're being real.
Oh yeah, for sure. It kind of just showed like how easy it is for humanity and for us just to fucking eat each other alive basically and not give a fuck about anybody besides themselves. Like in that
For
very
sure.
moment, like I remember just everybody, and that's really when I ran out of work too as like a producer, and I had to like figure out other ways of making money. Like nobody wanted
Hmm.
to record at that time at all. Everyone was really scared and sketched out, and it was a very weird time for sure. And like looking back on it, like I remember my best friend Teddy, um, that lived up there with me. He has horrible anxiety issues. Like he takes like anxiety medication, and dude, he was like calling me, and he had to like bought three fucking shotguns. He had like locked himself in his apartment for like, I'm not even kidding, 3 months when that started. He didn't leave his like apartment once. Like, and
Jeez.
I kept telling him, I was like, dude, you're gonna be fine. He's like, no, the government's saying that if we catch it, we're gonna die. I'm gonna die, man. I have asthma. Like I'm at the highest risk, man. Like he was freaking out. Like, and then I could only imagine like I don't know what it was like for you in Atlanta there, or maybe with your friends and family when that was all going down, or your experience with that.
Mm. It was dude. I mean, so Atlanta was really funny because on a national scale, I just remember in Atlanta, we got a lot of skepticism because the city was closed. And one funny thing, I'll never forget the first day of lockdowns when there was not a car on I-85, easily the biggest interstate, the busiest interstate in all of the southeast. And there was no car on I-85, and people used to post like the Walking Dead like season 1 poster. Like the highway was shut down through Atlanta in that, and it was just so terrifying. That honestly, that just fed into hysteria because it's like, I mean, you're taking something that was fiction in the show when they shut the highway down for that, and then to like really happen, like that actually happened. So I remember in 2020, Atlanta got a lot of criticism though because as the pandemic went on, I would say into the summer, a lot of people started to say, "Fuck it, we're going outside." And
Yeah.
it got to a point where Atlanta was the U.S.'s major city, where it was a whole lot looser on its restrictions than elsewhere. But as a result, I mean, whether people liked it or not, COVID was a real thing. There was a lot of things we didn't know at that time that we look back on that were a little bit foolish. But I mean that was part of the learning process about being in a pandemic, which no human that was alive during that had experienced. And I don't care how old you were, you hadn't experienced the pandemic to that point. So um, it was just so crazy because I don't know. It just everybody got to see kind of what it was like on a national scale, especially with Atlanta not operating in the same manner as everybody else. But I just remember, having to take off for school, do online classes. I remember just being deprived of being able to socialize like you used to before. I mean, it took so many. I mean, just simple shit, dude. Going out to eat, going out to. I don't even want to think about it. It's traumatizing, but I'm glad we made it past it. But Atlanta was a different experience because you're dealing with a major city. Metro area's got over 6 million people, and everybody's got different ideologies. And we were not operating the way the rest of the country was. I can say that for a fact.
Yeah, man, for sure. That's really funny that I mean that had happened with like with the highway and everything, and people kind of memeing The Walking Dead because it seemed like that. It seemed legitimately like an apocalypse. Like I was kind of freaked out too because I mean I remember my friends just telling me like, no, dude, this is like super serious. So I'm like, and I was like, well, I mean, I was like, I think we're gonna be all right. I can't see us like full. And then once the full blown lockdown happened and everyone was losing their jobs and like full blown panic,
Chaos.
yeah, just full blown chaos. Nobody was going out and people were looting and um, it was crazy just in Syracuse alone, and it was very man. 2020 was fucking dark. Like it was a depressing year, man. I don't know if it was the same for you, but I was. That was a
It
hard
was.
year, man. Like I felt because of like what you said of not being able to go out, not being able to really socialize with people, and everybody just scared of one another. Like people really we started treating everybody differently to one another, and not in a good way. Like I said, people just fucking out for themselves, and we kind of got to see like if shit really hit the fan, people are gonna start fucking killing each other, sort of thing.
Oh, for sure, dude. I remember just that year too. I mean, it was so disturbing going into the summer, especially like, I mean, being a black man in America and then everything that happened with the racial tensions and everything that were going on at that time. I was like, man, I mean, we're already dealing with like a global scale pandemic. I was like, then you're throwing in all this hatred and all this discrimination, and then all this conflict that unfolds over the summer, and then just a lot of impactful deaths for a lot of close ones, loved ones. Impactful deaths for people globally that were public figures around the world, and just a chaotic year. You know what's so funny though? I came into this year and I thought, and I was thinking about my own self improvement and how there's things I'm glad I improved about myself and worked on, and there's things I thought I plateaued on. And one of the things I was thinking about, I was like, 2020 was a shitty year, but being trapped in the house led a lot of people to self improvement. I don't care if they were going to the gym or up in their appearance or they were trying to put themselves in a position so that when they came out of the pandemic, they would be in a better place socially, confidence wise, self image wise. And that was something I focused on a lot in the pandemic that I felt I got away from in 2021 and especially 2022. Then in 2023, I was like, all right, I kind of want to get back to like the 2020 eras in terms of like upkeeping things like at the forefront of my attention, and truly staying focused on like my purpose and like what I'm passionate about and bettering myself. So, I can be the best version of myself. I feel like I did a great job at that in 2020. And 2020 was such a shitty year, and I'm trying to channel that again.
Yeah, man, and that's amazing that a lot of people were able to take kind of like that negative time too and like reflect on it. It was hard for me kind of because, well, like I said, I lost a lot of clientele and I wasn't really able to make a lot of money during that time.
Mm-hmm.
But also something about me that I kind of had to like face and has been kind of a struggle always in my life is like I'm a workaholic, and I'm kind of a person
Mm-hmm.
that I have to be doing something all the time. Otherwise, I get like really depressed. And when that had happened, that wasn't really the case, because I didn't have a lot of work to do. I didn't have enough to go off of. I mean, I remember I even picked up like Grubhubbing and DoorDash, and I would just go out and Grubhub and DoorDash because I would just be like sitting at the house all the time and I would be just bored. I would be just like bored out of my mind, and I didn't feel inspired to make any music, so I would try some
Mm-hmm.
ideas and they ended up just sounding kind of shitty, and then I would move on from them and try making other stuff for people, and they would really
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that. But it was kind of, it was trying to find like how can I like enjoy myself without needing to work or something, because I've always had that in my head. Like it's even hard for me to like sit down for just like when a cool video game comes out, I'm kind of the guy that
Mm-hmm.
will like I'll play the shit out of the game like really really hard for like a couple of days, or like a week, and then maybe I'll finish it. And then I'll finish the game and then I'll be like, "All right, that's enough." Then I'll drop it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I am, and so because then I get like too stuck in my head and like wondering, well, am I doing enough or am I not doing enough? Am I just being lazy? And I do a lot of self-reflecting on like what is time, management in a healthy way. So it's good that you were able though to take 2020 though as a way to improve yourself. How do you feel like you did? Like in what ways?
Oh man, after I grew up playing hockey around the country, so I was always an athlete growing up. But when I stopped, like many athletes, I was so tired of cardio. I was so tired of weights. I was so tired of just the strenuous. I guess just the toll it takes on your body. I was a goalie playing hockey, double A, travel around the country. So
Yes.
I stopped working out honestly for to that point. It should have been 2 years. Yeah, it would have been 2 years right on the dot. But I was like, all right, let's kind of like get back on the fitness goals and everything. Like let's kind of get back in the gym and doing stuff like that. And there was no better time during the pandemic. I mean, you're at home. Oh, we were at home all the time by ourselves, dude. Like there was almost it almost handcuffed you to the point that there was nothing else better to do. That was one thing. Really focusing on time management, planning out my days. At that time, I was working on a lot of meditation and trying, to manifest different things into my life. It was working, coming off my first project and everything. So I really wanted to focus on that and radiate positive energy that it would manifest certain things into my life. My Ravens just got a touchdown on the TV. Let's fucking go. But
Nice, nice. Yeah,
um,
the games have been going on all day, dude. I've been watching them at
I
Olive
know,
Garden.
seriously. I knew when you were at work, you're probably running that shit up too.
Oh yeah, man. I was behind the bar and I had like a full bar top of just people, and we're all just watching the games. Like I've been there since fucking 10 in the morning this morning, and it's just been on all day. But that's awesome though. But yeah,
I'm
man,
bad, man.
that's great though that you were able though to take that. What I find fascinating about you is you're extremely like athletic. And but you're also extremely artistic. And usually,
Mm-hmm.
what I find about most people that I've ever met is, and I guess in society and the way that people do judge people is that you're either one or the other. You're either like a very, athletic, bodybuilder maybe type of person or something like that, or really take care of your
Mm-hmm.
body and really into sports, or you're really just artistic and you just like either doing music or maybe drawing or painting or tattoos or whatever. And one thing about you is that you kind of embody both, and you're very passionate about multiple things. You can did you ever feel like you had issues like fitting into groups, or were you able to just blend in with kind of like the athletes and then also fit in with like artsy people?
I was with both. I mean, I used to hate everybody always got like this. I think, especially before they go to high school. So like when you're like that preteen era, like you've got this concept of what high school is because of the cheesiness, like the cheesy nature of adults writing these fucking Disney Channel and Nickelodeon shows. So it's
Yeah.
like we've got these concepts through sitcoms that honestly hold some merit, but they're not necessarily true. But I mean, in school, I was hanging out with the basketball team, the football team. Obviously, I was playing hockey, but I would go sit with the goths and talk about rock music and shit, and just alt culture in general because I thought that shit was dope. I could sit with like the gaming kids because I was gaming too. When I had time in my free time, I could talk about shit like that. I could go sit with the superhero comic nerds and talk about shit like that. Like I was always able to flow pretty well between each social group because I just had so many. I don't really know why I did, but I just had so many interests growing up. So I think to a degree sometimes it created like an identity crisis because it's a little too many ingredients sometimes, or at least it made me feel like wow, it's a little too many ingredients. It's too many. I've got my foot in too many different pools here, but I loved it, dude, because I feel like it's helped me relate to a multitude of different people and have a good diverse pool of friends just growing up and today and going forward into the future for people I'm yet to meet. So I've always been able to kind of flow from niche group to niche group, and I've always loved it. I just love interacting with people in general and just all the different interests that people have.
Yeah, that absolutely. And I think that's really inspiring because like I'm a very artsy person. I wouldn't say I'm extremely like athletic. I mean, I go running just for exercise. Um, as a kid, I used to be in through high school. I used to be extremely overweight. Like I was about 250 pounds, and it took me a long time to be able to stick to a diet and to be able to lose that weight. But I always was just extremely artistic and was had that kind of music just gift with just that. That's what I kind of figured out I was just really naturally good at and just kept kind of rolling with it. Um, but so for you, in growing up, but like when was like the initial thing that inspired you to start doing music? Did you start with an instrument, or did you just start writing raps, or how did it like come about for you? Were you already doing sports?
So my first, and I don't think I ever saw myself as an artist, dude. Growing up, I always saw myself being either a pro athlete, and I was in a lot of pro athlete realms. I mean, one of my favorite goalie coaches that I had, who always instilled faith in me, Mitch Korn. I think he's the goaltending coach right now for the New York Islanders, if he's still there. He was a goaltending coach for the Washington Capitals on their way to the Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guy. He has so much confidence in me. I've had a lot of pro level coaches growing up with hockey too, playing double A and triple A merger around the country. But I always saw myself as an athlete, or I'm in journalism now. I always saw myself calling the games, but I loved music so much growing up. Um, the first instance of when I knew I loved music and would be immersed in it for the rest of my life was at 3. And I watched Drumline, well, Nick Cannon's Drumline.
Yes, 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 yes.
That dude, that fucking changed everything for me. Like I that changed everything for me. My parents got me a drum set from a really young age. I mean, before I was even 5. And it's still those patterns and paradiddles and the sticking sequences and everything from drumline are just implemented into my head that I'll even still incorporate when I'm doing covers and stuff. And so it started with drums for me. And then I really, it took me a long time to be a good rapper. When I was probably around 9, I probably tried to write my first rap song, and I just could not. I remember opening like the little composition notebooks that you get in school, and I just could not write anything at that time. In 2008, obviously being from, we moved out of Atlanta at that point. I was in Metro Atlanta, but I was in, should have been Gwinnett then. And Ti was the shit. He was the king of Atlanta at that point. So
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to replicate what Ti was doing. I was getting into Eminem, Wayne, Ye, Jay Z. Like those were the top dogs in the game then. So and I tried to write raps at 9 in that composition notebook, and I just could not make it work. It took me a couple years, I would say, probably until that my last year of middle school, my freshman year of high school. I used to just jokingly rhyme a lot. Um, and then, I used to write a lot of funny freestyles, or I would go to lunch and then like the rhymes would just start to come out, and like my rhyming would develop and people would hype me up at, the lunch table freestyles. Um, and then,
Nice.
my senior year is I really started putting lyricism together because of the projects. I mean, at that time I had such a diverse set of projects and rappers that I loved. I mean, X was at the top for me at that time, but Joyner Lucas was. I'd been listening to Kendrick and Cole throughout like the 2010s, so from my preteens all the way through my teens, and then M was my goat. So I started being like, all right, let me take what I've subconsciously learned from their projects and put it towards rapping and everything. And um, I really got to display rapping on a serious scale and putting it towards a subject matter which I struggled on obviously my first project, which was just Erris. So but for starting out music with me, it really did start with drums. And I'm so grateful, that I learned drums. A lot of the time you'll hear people say that drums is kind of like the hardest one because of the rhythmic elements of it, and then being able to multitask and split up the different paradiddles and patterns across multiple limbs if you're if you're on like a drum set and everything. But it really set the foundation for me in music in general, because then you put melodies over it, then you put harmonies over it. Like, I'm glad I started on drum. Hell, I've told you before. I told you I like rap like a drum, which
Yep.
I had to explain. But I mean, it changed the way I even approach lyricism. So it really all came from drums for me, and then I put every other thing. And I listen to 50 genres. I incorporated everything else on top of that, and it's created a pretty good melting pot for me growing up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, your rapping is insane. I mean, incredible. I remember hearing Just Me for the first
Bro.
time, and then just kind of like going down the Erris rabbit hole, of all the stuff that you had already
Mhm.
released. And right around that time, you were releasing, um, Bipolar, and then you released
Mhm.
Bipolar, the music video for that, and then you released Balor with
Mhm.
that. And I was not only blown away by just like the rapping that you were able to do and how technical it was, and like you said, rapping like a drummer, but just even just the way you're able to tell a story too in a lot of this. And I think what's hard about like I couldn't write it's not that I can't write rap, but doing it in the way you do it, it does take a lot of work and it does take a lot of talent just to be able to go through it and to understand it. And I think it is great that you started on the drums too, because drums is hard. I mean, I can't play the drums like you can, like straight up, like in real life, I can't do that. I can program drums. I can program them, like I programmed Hate Yourself's drums with Justin. Like I already knew how
Mm,
I wanted those to sound and had sent him the stems. Here's the drum pattern. Here's the trap pattern. And then, we came, even when I did the This Is Me remix or all the stuff that I've done, um, I've always been able to program it and kind of figure out, okay, well, but if I was actually trying to play this stuff, I couldn't. You know,
mhm.
it's just definitely like all programmed, and I don't have the talent to actually play it. But um, that's cool though. So you started on drums, and then you picked up the guitar. You started learning guitar. Um, you
Mhm.
played some keys too, don't you? Right? Because I've seen you on
I
TikTok.
do. What's funny about that is I went from drums. I was like, okay, so I was in middle school band. I was in like the middle school band ensemble type thing, and I wanted to do it just my sixth grade year. I didn't love it after my sixth grade year because they used to make us play such bland ass music. Like I don't want to play that Johann Sebastian Bach ass shit. I just did.
Yeah.
I hated that. I don't like that a lot of instructors force kids to, which is a great foundation of music. Like looking back, it is a great foundation of music, but I think it's too. I just think the method of approaching music composition like that, it is outdated. You know, the key signatures and everything like that. You don't really see that a lot in today's music, which is why I don't like instructors approaching band, approaching well, orchestra is a different deal because that's pretty much what you're gonna get. But like band and things like that,
Hmm.
I didn't like the structure of it then. But what it taught me was going from drums, having played drums my whole life. My next instrument actually was a xylophone, which is another percussion instrument, obviously. But what's funny about the xylophone is it's of course the same exact note structure and it's the same exact build as a piano. So I subconsciously learned piano. I indirectly learned piano through xylophone. It's so funny because when you're learning these different songs on xylo or marimba or anything like that, they're all the same thing. They're just manufactured differently in different sizes. But you kind of walk through tapping each of the notes with your finger, so you already develop some finger dexterity too while you learn xylophone, and it translated to piano. So that's how I learned piano was through xylophone. We had a piano in the band room I used to fuck around on, and then eventually I learned guitar and added that on. I think I'm good on the instruments. I'm running out of fucking room in this room
Yeah.
to keep all my stuff. I think I'm good on instruments. I want a xylophone so bad, dude, just for the fuck of it. Those cost like $10,000 and shit like that for like the really great ones, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of steep. But
Oh,
I'm
they're
pretty
fucking
good with my
expensive.
two guitars. Yeah, they really are, bro. I'm good with my two guitars, my whole drum set, and my piano for the next decade plus.
Yeah, that's awesome though that you're able to like learn all of that, and that let alone rapping and then into singing, screaming, like you're incredibly multi-talented in all of this stuff. And there's not a lot of people, even when I've recorded like just people in New York, there's just not a lot of people that have that ability and that like talent and that gift to just be able to do all of those things. So was just me then your very first song?
So what's funny is, well, I've written freestyles and stuff like that, but people will ask me about the Just Airs project, and because they see Just Me was the first one that I released, they assume that was the first song that I wrote for release too. But the first song I wrote for release was funny because it's the third song on that project, and it was actually Kingpin. And
Oh wow.
I came home. I came home. I think, geez, for the Labor Day weekend. It was one of the weekends for the fall semester that we get off. So I went home just to see the family and everything, and I saw that beat on YouTube, and I saw it, and I just wrote something to it. I probably sat down for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and just wrote Kingpin. And I didn't know it would end up being on the Just Airs project and everything, but I just knew that I would release it. And that was the first song, and you can hear, and I love that came out like that because I always go back to that song, and see the lyrical progression from that. And even that is that's a very story driven song as well, where I detail, a lot about my dad's upbringing and how it contrasts from me, and, trying to walk in my own purpose. And then obviously Kingpin alluding to my sports brand, which, the aftermath of that kind of crumbling, led me to, really pursuing music and pouring everything into that, because I was just so hurt about having that taken from me. But Kingpin was the first song I had written for release, and then the second song I wrote was Just Me. I wrote that a little bit, like I wrote some of that in my dorm room, but I wrote a lot of that sitting in the back of my psychology class my freshman year, just not giving a fuck, and I wrote that song back there.
Nice, and I mean, all of it. And I love that whole project. And I really, really love Bipolar a lot. I mean, I still listen to Bipolar, just I have it on a playlist for myself on YouTube Music. But um,
Um,
I think for you, in the you've released like all these music videos, like even with Just Me, Broken, Kingpin, Mania, I Don't Forget. And so you were paying for basically studio time in Atlanta. I know you were going to a pretty high end producer that you were
mhm.
paying, and you were going to, and you're just tracking your stuff out, right?
Yeah, so that's what I was doing for that project. I was so new to music, and because I was so new, I wanted people to kind of also help, like, figuratively, like, hold my hand through the process a little bit. So I didn't mind at that time going to a studio and being able to track the vocals and everything, and people being able to bounce out for me, get all my stems ready, and so that I could take it to somebody to mix and master that was cost effective, but that would still make it sound industry grade. Which I'm glad that it all turned out like that. But yeah, that was definitely a backbreaker at that time. Having to pay 60, then $65 and $70 an hour for the studio time. Typically, I would finish a song in an hour, 2 hours max, regardless, because I'm going over it so many times at home that by the time you go in the studio and do it, I'm just not making a mistake when I'm doing them. So but you track it out and everything. And then you got to pay for the mixing and mastering. And then I wanted to do a music video for each song on my project because of how much it meant to me, and I don't regret that looking back. But yeah, definitely at that time it was for sure a backbreaker then financially.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I never charged that much hourly in New York. Like I wonder if they've even upped it since, because I think 60 an hour is pretty that's pretty insane. I mean, 2 hours, let
Mm-hmm.
alone, I mean, and maybe because I work differently, usually how I charged people is I would charge 300 a day, but you get the entire day with me. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to think like, 4 hours or so at 60 or 70 an hour, you're basically paying that amount already is 300, where I would have 300 a day and you would get all day sessions with me, so you'd get the entire like 8-12 hours with me no matter how long we worked. um,
Mm-hmm.
so it was kind of a good deal because people could just do 300 and then 300 again with me, and then by then we would maybe have a whole album or an EP completely done that was mixed, mastered, tracked. You would get the entire thing done. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
You know what's crazy about it though, dude? Like in Atlanta, like that's 60 to 75 an hour. Like that was on the low end. I mean, I just saw some that, and they had such a long list of clientele. I mean, I'm talking about, I mean, you get Young Thug, Gunna, Lil Baby, help build your studio up, and they're doing their projects in there, even after they get signed. So these studios, they get a little big headed, and some of it they're kind of entitled to that, some of it that's outlandish. But I mean, I would get ones, dude, talking about like 120, 150, 180,
God,
210 an hour. I'm talking about in a fucking hour, like $200 an hour. Crazy.
yeah, that's insane. I don't like that. Even as a producer that knows the business, I just don't like that because I'm more for the artist. Especially if it's somebody that I like working with. The only time I change my rates is if I just legitimately don't like working with somebody. Like there was this guy that was in Syracuse, and hopefully he doesn't get on my Instagram and see this podcast and wants to listen. But there was this guy and his name was Tate, and he would always hit me up to record, and he was just bad, man. He just was not good, and he wanted to do a full album with me, and it's not. He was kind of like, and I don't know, and maybe I have no place to say this, but like a lot of his music too was like he was like this white guy screaming the N word, and I'm just like I would be in the room. I remember tracking him like 2 times before, and I remember like recording some of his music, and he's like just blatantly screaming the N word, and he's like white as white can be, and and I'm kind of just like, it's hard to say because his whole thing was like, oh, well, I'm Indian. Like I have, Cherokee blood in me is what his excuse was. But the thing is like, even, I don't know, this is in my head, or like, even if you are like Indian or whatever it may or may not be, or whatever you think gives you, the N-word pass, so to speak, to be just ripping it through your music like that, it's kind of just like, anybody that sees you and sees you doing this in your music is not going to take you seriously at all. They're going to think you're a clown. You know what I mean? Like, that's my opinion. Now other people could disagree with me because, like, look at Logic. Like Logic, to me, I never knew that his dad was black. But and so, the song that he has with Eminem, right? Like, the very start of that, like, so it's just kind of like, I don't really know, but I never felt the other thing though is just the music wasn't good. It just was not good music. It wasn't even like good turn up music or anything. It was just like really, really bad. You could barely understand the guy. He almost sounded like a Tasmanian devil. Like he'd be like, yeah, talking about like that. Like,
oh, holy fuck. That's such like little darky ass shit. Like this sounds like Darky came to your studio, dude.
But just not even good though. Like I love Little Darky, but like not like, it's not even good. Like in Lil Darky, he's even controversial in himself too. Like I can understand the appeal of him though, you know what I mean? But
I've already, oh my god, I remember you and me had the conversation. I'm not even gonna get into it on the pod, but you already know how I feel about Lil Darky. I just don't even want to get it longer.
No, like I understand like why people. It's kind of like the 6ix9ine thing. You know what I mean? It's like I understand why people like it. Like, and 6ix9ine does the same thing. He's just screaming the N word, and he's not, black. He's just from the street or whatever. Whatever.
Exactly.
So I don't necessarily agree with any of it, but I can understand why people like it. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it, sort of thing. It's like kind of the same thing with this guy Tate. Is like I just thought the music was not good. It was, and so I would like up my rates real hard on him. I'd be like, hey man, I'm sorry, I'm really, really busy right now and I'm really booked, so I'm gonna have to charge you $150 an hour. And he would still be like, okay man, I'm cool with that. And I'd be like, oh god. And I'd be like,
oh, the fuck.
And yeah, and I just started just to being like muting him and ignoring him, because if he was gonna pay me $150 an hour just to have his music tracked, like, I don't know, but I mean I can understand. I don't like Lil Darky in the sense like his music's good, like the music is good. I can't disagree with like that the music's dope, but like the imaging, you know what I mean? It's like the images. It's like the 6ix9ine thing and the images. It's like, I feel like it's all for attention.
Yeah, for sure.
It's even Lil Darky the same way, or like 6ix9ine. I mean, 6ix9ine's like a Looney Tune character, dude. Like the way he presents himself and everything. It's like it's crazy to me. But. I don't know. So maybe it's not my place to say what is right or wrong about that. Because I'm just a white guy, and like, but to me, even when I hear Logic do it, and I think Logic's a great rapper, I think it's just kind of corny. I don't know.
But what's so funny is I'll talk about that with other black music fans. I'll bring up the Logic thing a lot, and I'll be like, I mean, I'll tell other black people that will have that same sentiment. Like, it's kind of jarring when Logic does it. I'm like, well, y'all, if it's jarring when Logic does it, I get how Logic looks because he does. I didn't know Logic was mixed for a long time either. And I mean, I've seen his dad. That's a black man. That's like a full on black man. So I mean, and I didn't know Logic was mixed for a long time, but I was like, guys, if Logic can't say the N word biologically, J.
Yeah.
Cole can't say nigga either. Like, because they are the same, people forget, they are the same amount of mix because J. Cole's mother is white. So, I mean, it's like, and people forget about shit like that just because, people typically are just going to go off appearance anyway. But I definitely get what you mean about that too. But, yeah, I've always just held that example to him. Like, man, if Logic can't say nigga, all right, then J. Cole is like to the same degree.
Or Drake, because isn't Drake mixed too?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Drake wouldn't be allowed to say it either. Like, yeah, all of a sudden, it would go completely out the door, and then that, it kind of brings in like a whole different conversation on like the verbiage of rap and shit like that, and like who can use it. I mean, really, it's just got to be something amongst the black community because I've always talked about the reformation of a word and the taking back and the restructuring and remeaning of a word that the black communities kind of use that through, and then used it through the cultural medium that is hip hop for black people. So, and it's just so funny because I feel like the majority of people get it, and then I feel like there's a lot of people who don't give a fuck. One example, how much I love Yeet. I love Yeet,
Yeah.
and it's so funny because people will hear Yeet, and I mean, let's not lie. Yeet don't sound like I think the white or Hispanic and white mixed guy that he actually is. Like if you look at Yeet's high school picture and then played like Sorry About That for somebody, like people would be like, what the fuck? Because it just wouldn't match up. But I remember Yeet. I think he got on Instagram Live and said it. I saw it on Twitter, but I think he was on Instagram Live from the recording that got posted. And Yeet was just like saying the N word is just some shit I don't want to say. I feel like it's corny as fuck when white rappers try to do that. When non-black rappers try to do that, it's like it's just some corny ass shit. I'm just not gonna do it. I've gotten this far without doing it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And no, I totally agree with you. And that and I mean I'm even sorry for bringing it all up and whatnot because it's just kind of like but
No, but
even
there are definitely people out there like that, bro. I mean, it definitely happens.
yeah, definitely. And I was just always raised and taught that that's not something that I'm allowed to say. That's
Mm.
just kind of how I am. So I have my own principles and morals with that. If other people want to say it, regardless if they're white or whatever, that's up to them. But when especially in music though, where it was like with this guy, it kind of just was, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Of like, I can't take you seriously, and I have to like be able to take an artist seriously. And I think when people, if somebody else wants to record that kind of music, that's fine. But it's not for me to record. I just don't think it's good. Even just the songwriting in general, I just don't think it's good. Regardless if you're saying the N word as a white guy or not.
Mm.
But he like that's another example of that completely. And like even in New York, there was a lot of Puerto Rican people, that would say the N word all the time that I knew. Like my boy Alex and stuff, like friends of mine that were like Dominican, Puerto Rican, they would just say it casually too.
Mm.
So I don't know. Like I said, it's if to me though it's like not something that I can necessarily care for. It's very hard for me to record it, and I recorded a lot of music I didn't really care for, but I think
Mm.
the artists I they they took themselves seriously and they were always good clients, and regardless if I didn't think the music was that great, I would still record it for them, or if they asked my advice or for tips, I would give it to them if they asked, and I had a lot of clients like that. that were really chill with me and cool with me to give back feedback or advice all the time.
Mhm.
Um, but
Mhm.
I think with you that I think that's incredible though. You started with Kingpin, and then you went to Just Me, and you were releasing all this music during that time. And are you glad then now that you have everything, like you've pretty much got your whole recording set up, right, ready to go?
Oh yeah, I've got everything set up pretty much. So my thing's just tracking the vocals, and two, I wanted to talk to you about that. Is just that at some point I didn't know if I was really gonna finish tracking all the vocals for a project and just send you the stems, or if there was a day that you had free where I don't know we track them together. If they're I'll probably send you like the sessions and everything that I've done, or just the session like the premiere session that I think is the best. And if there's anything like you're like tweak this, tweak that. It'd be easy to go in and fix, retrack anything that I need to, fix any timing issues, re-record, whatever the fuck,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my whole setup's all together, and then this is kind of the next. This is kind of like the next phase and era I'm in with music, where I'm tracking my own stuff and putting my own productions together and everything. I've got a good gist. I'm established. I'm 2 million streams in and everything in music, to where I don't need my handheld as much as when you're starting out. Because you can tell from my first song released, and that was accompanied by a music video, Just Me. Like the success of that was because it looked like a major label was debuting a new artist. So I always at that time wanted to put an emphasis on everything being professional, and I still do. Uh, with all my releases, but I'm just excited to have the home setup and everything. Being able to track vocals when creativity comes, you can just go right in, go right into the damn Shure mic, go right into the setup and everything, and get everything um, out into the music realm and into the workspace, so that you can make art happen for release.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got a Focusrite, and you got an SM7B and a Cloud Lifter. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
Nice, nice. That I mean that's exactly what I use too. Is just I bought a new mic recently. I haven't used it for vocals, but SM that stuff though is all you need. I record vocals, recorded vocals all the time with just a Focusrite SM7B into a Cloud Lifter, and that was it. And you can literally get the very very incredibly high studio production just out of that mic. That's if there's any mic I tell anyone to get, it's the SM7B and a Cloud Lifter with it, because it just sounds great. Um,
Mhm.
so
For sure, like a high level mic that I saw, like everybody was kind of recommended for like the home studios and everything. When I saw the performance of it, especially, I was like, that's just when you get to see everybody how they execute their vocals and what the final product sounds like, mastering and everything, and how much range it gives you, and how people were. I don't know. It was just really sitting in the pockets of people's voice, and I've just felt like it was perfect for me. So it's been excellent using it so far. I feel like pretty much nailed it on that one. Good selection.
yeah, so you've already tracked it out then, some of the songs or some demos of it.
Yeah, so pretty much the first track of this upcoming project, Oreo, is what I've been tracking the most, and then also I'm releasing a freestyle that'll go alongside it. I've done the vocals for that a little bit, but I'm finishing like producing the majority of that, because that'll be actually my first self-produced song, which I'm excited about. And then from kind of from there, after I get all the vocals and everything together, we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, man, definitely just shoot me the vocals and shoot me all the stems and everything for it, and I'll check it out and let you know what I'm thinking of it. And but yeah, if you got that in GarageBand, you're using GarageBand as your DAW.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting Logic too, but as of right now, I've just been using GarageBand just for the simple tracking and everything.
Yeah, GarageBand's great. I think it's a great DAW. It's very simple. It's very user friendly. It has a
Sure.
lot of creative like to me, it's a very clean DAW. It's very nice. A lot of professional people use it too. I know my producer friend Josh. He uses GarageBand all the time, and his shit sounds insane. Like it sounds incredible. But yeah, man, just definitely shoot me the stems though, and just we'll definitely go from there. And That way, because even if we go song to song to song to song, and then by the time you got a full mix and project, you have something that's like really, really incredible, and every single song's been executed, mixed, and mastered, and every little thing
Mm.
about it. So you're just wanting to do, so you want to do the whole project Oreo, and then you're going to release the freestyle, or are you just going to do some singles from Oreo and then release the rest of the album?
So what I'm doing is it'll be 10 songs in total, and I'm gonna split it in half. Actually, like I kind of wanted to do the first five, like side A released, and then take a break, and then release side B. And what I'm doing is kind of releasing a single, two that pop off music videos for them, and then dropping the 5 song first half of the album. Then let that marinate amongst everybody who wants to listen to it, because the Spades are really getting excited about this upcoming. I mean, it's like a whole new era, and I feel like I'm re-debuting as an artist too. So it's very exciting to refine my image even more, refine my sound anymore, and then present it again to new fans that are definitely excited about it. And then from there, after that, it gets to sit for a little bit, release a music video and a new single over the summer, maybe a new single, probably with just a visualizer, not visualizer, not a music video, but then go into to the B side of the album with the other 5 songs. So kind of broken up and allowing all the songs a chance to catch fire and breathe and everything. So it can all together be a good year. Nothing feels rushed, nothing feels overbearing, nothing's breaking my back or everything. But so that it really feels like a professional production and like a re debuting artist almost.
Absolutely, man, because like I know you have everything it takes. I mean, and more so than most artists that I've ever known or been around. You absolutely have what it takes to be just have this huge following. And it's so fucking hard, man, just to get people to get into your music, dude. It's so fucking difficult just for any artist that doesn't have like that initial push. It's just so difficult. And but I think everything about your image and what you're doing with TikTok now. I mean, if you just keep grinding that, I know it's just gonna keep becoming huge. It's just
For
gonna
sure,
keep,
man. I'm already seeing it now, for sure.
yeah, it's just gonna keep just moving up. One thing too, what inspired you to do the Vice City remix? When you, because that was one thing I went back and I've listened to that remix quite a bit, um,
Mm.
alongside some of your other music. But you and me being huge fans of X, like I really feel like you just did an incredible remix to that. What kind of inspired that, or what where were you in that place? Because was that around when he had passed away, or?
So the Vice City remix, that still is and geez, even after this project, so that has the potential to be the only song I've ever released that did not fit in any of my projects. It was not on Just Erris, it was not on Bipolar, it wasn't on It's Not a Phase, and it's not on Oreo, obviously. So and what's so funny about Vice City is I wanted that to be a standalone, and obviously I couldn't get it approved for commercial release at that time. X had passed, but by the time I released that freestyle, I think in the summer of 2019, but X had passed. Obviously, for a year to that point, it was released on the 1 year anniversary of X's passing. So the 1 year anniversary, or was it 2 years after that? I'm trying to think now that I think about it. It was either in 2019 or 2020 that I'd released. I think it was 2020. So it was released on the 2 year anniversary of his passing. And I called it. A lot of people don't know why it's called Dark Dorm Room. The cover art actually alludes to it a little bit, but my freshman year at KSU, man, I was just in Kennesaw in the dorm, and I was one of the first kids admitted, one of the first freshmen admitted for that school year. So I was able to get the new single student dorms. So I was one of the only, students on campus that had like a dorm to themselves, and I thought it was so sick at first, dude. But it was positioned in the University Village suites, and it was all up in the corner and everything. That shit was ass, dude. Like it was literally the only reason it was even bad was not because of the independence and everything, and you get to live by yourself and do your own thing, have to share a room. It was more so just the location. It was so often in the corner on the back side of the building, which I mean, if it's on the backside of the building and it's in the corner, it doesn't allow a lot of opportunity for sunlight, especially with only one window in the room, which completely contrasts from every other dorm and shit. So one thing I struggled with that year is I love overcast weather and everything. If you follow me on socials, you'll see me post a lot of art. I'm like gloomy, foggy shit. I love shit like that. But I
Yeah,
also thrive a lot on sunlight, and I never underestimated because it does play a part on what your mood is and everything. And not getting any natural light in that room, dude, and already a time when I was dealing with the worst heartbreak of my life. Um, when I was dealing, with not having a whole lot of social contact and falling off with a lot of friends and just not really having any friends in general, it literally made my life dark, just like my room. And that was literally a dark dorm room in which I wrote that freestyle. I knew at that point I already wanted to do a tribute freestyle for X. I wasn't sure what it was going to be. I thought about Sad and Moonlight. I heavily thought about Jocelyn Flores. And I ended up going with Vice City because one day I heard it and it just touched me so much with that sample and everything, and it changed me. So I wrote Dark Dorm Room in psychology again because I wasn't listening worth shit in that class.
yeah.
But I also wrote it, just in between classes when I was in the commons eating lunch and dinner, and then obviously in my dorm room. So it was just one that I really wanted to tribute to X because the beat impacted me like nothing I'd heard before at that point, and it just hit me at the perfect time of life when I had a lot to get off my chest.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I loved it, man. It's just incredible. And that makes sense, given your dorm room and everything, and where you were, and in that time and place. Um, the so when you were kind of always into like metal and punk, did that come kind of later after rap, or what was like the metal band that kind of really pushed you into like rock music and punk music?
So, I was born in '99, but I'm really a 2000s baby because I was born the last couple of weeks of '99. So the rest of the '90s babies don't recognize me as one because I didn't get to grow up in the '90s. I got to see a lot of the culture and shit, but the 2000s kids claim me more because I just was not alive for many days in the '90s at all. So, in the 2000s, rock was inescapable, and I loved it. I
Yeah.
fucking loved it. So the thing about it is like, again, growing up in the 2000s in Atlanta, you can imagine rap was king, and it was not close. It was not close at all. Outkast was the best-selling hip-hop group in history. They dominated. Ti was coming on. Lil Jon was dominant. Like there's so many people, and there was just more and more coming on. So it was rapping R&B. Usher was on at that point. He was more than on. He was coming off, I think, one or two fucking diamond albums,
Oh
bro.
yeah,
Like
man. Usher dominated during that time, man. Like, dude,
insane.
just crazy, man. Like he was massive, and dude, Outcast, man. I love Outcast. Like
I've
that was
always said there's
another band, dude. That
like
was
a,
just
like a statue of them in the city.
yeah, man. They were just so great. Like, and you know what's crazy about them too is like even their music today, man. It's just holds up. Like
It holds up,
it
seriously.
it's so it doesn't feel dated. It feels so fresh still, and it's so hard to like get
Mhm.
something that to sound that like just in I really like listening to a lot of Denzel Curry's newer music because he
Mhm.
was really inspired by Outkast, and you can hear it in a lot of his music. Um,
Mhm.
but dude, they were one of a kind, man. Um,
Loved them as a kid. That was like my earliest memory hearing them on the radio. It was like probably on 95.5 The Beat. If you're from Atlanta, bro, like everybody remembers that station stopped playing music, but I think that was when I first was introduced to them. So I mean, growing up in the 2000s, rap was king, especially being in Atlanta and then eventually Metro Atlanta. But I came on the rock because it was inescapable in the 2000s. My sister's 6 years older than me, and as little kids always do, they're always looking at the big kids setting the trends. So with my sister being older than me, when she was in middle school and I was in like pre-K, and like, or when she was in high school and I was in elementary school still, I mean, Green Day, Linkin Park, Paramore, they
Mm-hmm.
dominated, and that in order is my three favorite bands. But I would say rock, especially. I always loved Green Day. Transformers especially played a part in me fucking loving Green Day.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
I mean, geez, they went so heavy on that soundtrack. Honestly, and Linkin Park, shit. So that was a big reason. Those are my two favorite bands, and I love Paramore too. But I would say in 2009, I really started watching these WWE because my cousin got me into it. So I became a wrestling fanatic to this day. And wrestling was so heavy on music in general, but it was so heavy on the rock themes. And that's when I really, heard Papa Roach do the Monday night theme song for, Wanna Be Loved. And
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to so much different music. I would say the first metal song I liked was CM Punk's theme song, and it was from Kill Switch Engage, and it was This Fire Burns, and just hearing that screamo, that just ignited something different in me, dude. That's what I go back to, like, thinking that certain music is just, it's got to be chemically or biologically ingrained in some of us because, I mean, I hadn't grown up with really any or metal influence. I always say, like, growing up in, like, the Baptist church, like, in the predominantly black church, there's a lot of, like, screaming. There is a lot of screaming for sure. So
Oh
I feel like
yeah.
that influenced me when it went to, like, across the metal as well. But I didn't really have any metal and rock, and it's so different from rap. But I just fucking loved it, dude. I love the drums. I love them distorted ass guitars, and that just continued to grow. And it's like Evanescence also. Evanescence is my fourth favorite band, and it just kept growing more and more as I got older. Nowadays, it's Deftones and shit. I'm a fucking Deftones fiend right now, bro.
Really? You like Deftones? Yeah,
Oh,
man.
dude, that is like, I'm not even joking. Deftones is like, I feel like, especially I've been having, probably for the past 6 months, I've been having an outer body experience listening to Deftones. It is porn for my ears.
Oh my god, yeah, man. Deftones is great, man. That's insane that you're into them. What album do you really like from them?
This project. Okay, so lately I've been listening. This isn't an album, but Cherry Waves has been like, I've
Oh,
been
okay.
getting earworms from Cherry Waves. Obviously, that was an '06 release, I think. So that's a little bit newer. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, holy fuck, man. And somebody was
Yeah.
putting me on to this shit. For me, Around the Fur, because that's got banger after banger. Lotion's really underrated on that, but My Own Summer's on there. Um, Be Quiet and Drive. Even did a
Mm-hmm.
guitar cover to that on TikTok. That stole my fucking heart. That
Yeah.
whole project is excellent. And then I had somebody on TikTok put me onto some shit from them. They were like, dude, this will probably end up being your favorite album when you really dive into Deftones. But I gotta check out. I gotta go back and look at what they said. But Around the Fur is on
Yeah.
constant rotation for me. That is the this is the pinnacle of what music should be to me. Go about it in such an excellent way. I've heard a lot of people say they don't really understand Deftones or like the approach they take to music. I don't get it though. There's so much emotion and raw emotion and how they execute it and I guess just the production. I don't understand what there's not to like about Deftones.
I think it's kind of just because like it is the alternative rock space. People
Mm,
have a hard time grasping it, like just the feeling of it. It's kind of like, for example, I love this other band, and like I love Deftones too. And Around the Fur was kind of their blow up album. It's really what set them
mm,
off. And that was, I agree, it's an incredible album. But really, the first vocalist that really inspired me, because Linkin Park's one of my top three favorite bands too, but my number
mm,
one favorite band is Tool. And Tool, I don't know if you've listened to much Tool, but Tool is very weird, alternative, like very long songs. Like we're talking
mm.
8, 12-minute songs. They're very hard to play, they're very polyrhythmic. But the vocalist of Tool, Maynard James Keenan, he has this voice that it's so unique. It's not like anything I've ever heard, like from anything, even of recent. Like he has such a unique rock voice and the way he blends stuff. But I remember listening to Tool and I was kind of at first like, man, why are these songs so weird and long? And I would listen to it and listen to it, and there's something about it though I couldn't like get away from it. because I was just like, this is really good. But and Tool has this like crazy cult underground following, you know, like they're just people ride or
Mm.
die with them. But it's one of those bands that you either really love them or you just absolutely hate them. Like there's not really a good in between because they're so out there weird. Um, and Deftones kind of falls into that category too. So that's why I was kind of surprised that you actually like really really love Deftones, because Deftones is amazing. Um,
You know what's
and
crazy about it is like when I listen to Deftones. So my best friend Kai put me on to them, especially, and I've heard so many things about them. And you know, people put me on, and it's so funny because it was kind of the same way in which I got into Bring Me the Horizon. Because I was ashamed at how long I put off Ollie Sykes and his incredible band because Bring Me the Horizon, they just didn't find their way into my rotation when I was younger. You know, and they were always right there. They always had the commercial success, but it was kind of similar with them. And then when I started listening to them, it became an addiction. So I was like that with Deftones, which has a different sound, but I was like that with Deftones in the way that you know my best friend put me on to Be Quiet and Drive.
yeah,
And what it reminded me of is if like, and this is one of my biggest influences in hip hop, but it reminds me of if Earl Sweatshirt made rock music because it's in like a very unorthodox manner, but you just feel so much of the emotion. There's so much substance to it that you get so immersed into it and drowning in it that you're like, I just don't understand how this doesn't appeal to everybody, you know?
for sure. And even today, man, they're still huge. They're like such a massive band. They're definitely, to me, not underrated. But I think it's just, again, it's the rock alternative thing. I believe there's a lot of people that can't. It's not like how we can listen to anything and find something to like about it. You know what I mean? Like you and me, like because we're extremely artistic and are very open minded to everything, whether we agree with it or not. But you know, a lot of people, like the normal person, as soon as they like hear anything that you would say is not like, you know, there's like some girls all they listen to is Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah,
You
as soon
know,
as it's not cookie cutter, it's a little too pushing the boundaries for him. Yeah.
yeah, as soon as you put on like Deftones or Linkin Park, they're like, "What is this? This is weird." Like, you know, I don't like this. This is bad music, because to them they've never felt that kind of music. I say feeling because every type of music or what you're feeling is different from what
Mm,
you're listening to, whether that is like turn up music, whether that's whatever it is, you know. And so
mhm.
when people get used to listening to like nothing but really cookie cutter pop music like a Taylor Swift or a Justin Bieber, um, you know, and like I'm it's kind of like, for example, you know Charlie Puth, right? Like
Oh, for sure.
he's unbelievably talented, you know what I
One of
mean?
the greatest musical minds on the planet, from writing to production, engineering, vocal manipulation, stem manipulation. I just don't even understand how he thinks about the stuff he does, dude. Like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Love him.
he's incredibly talented, but his music though, to me, isn't for me. Like I understand
Mm,
why people like it, but it it's and I understand why it appeals to people, but even though he's
mhm,
incredibly talented, none of his music appeals to me. It just sounds pretty cookie cutter and formulaic. Even given that he's an incredible producer, an incredible vocalist, and he's great at doing what he does, like I give him all the credit in the world for that. Like he's incredibly talented, but his music doesn't resonate with me. It's kind of like, okay, you know, like I've heard it before, sort of thing, you know.
mhm.
And that's kind of how I feel about him. But I understand like why, you know, I don't have to be a huge fan of Taylor Swift to know why people love Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
it so. But that's cool just to hear though that you're even into stuff like that you can listen to something like Deftones.
I find it so interesting too, though, because I feel like it's a vice versa thing. As well, you'll see a lot of people who like more of the underground sound, even if because we all know the underground sound can absolutely make it into the mainstream. You know, I tell people all the time, look at X. That's a very
Yeah.
unorthodox, unmainstream sound to go in hip hop and fuse it with rock and metal. People were not doing that, and you telling me you did a billion streams? Like you had the number two. Well, I guess 17 peaked at number two, but had the number one album for your past. Like, dude, he did so much. That's a very underground artist that made it beyond the mainstream, made it into the top 10 globally. You know, so it's just so interesting because you'll see it flip the other way, where even if it's Deftones, you get that commercial success. A lot of people will have the underground approach, and they'll have an ear for that. Then they just can't understand the value. They can't hear the value. And let's say Justin Bieber, well, I guess Major Lazer, Cold Water featuring Justin Bieber, and then I'm like trying to explain to like my friends that that are immersed in like the true punk scene and shit like that. Like I'm like y'all have such great minds for music, but you can't sonically hear the excellence in this as well. Like, and don't just say because it's overproduced or it's at a major label, because I don't want to hear that. I think that's too much of an excuse, you know. So
Absolutely, I believe it's an excuse too, for sure. Because I mean, I love Justin Bieber. Like, I think he's an incredible vocalist, dude. Purpose is an incredible album. That whole album.
It's one of the best pop albums. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it, and I hope people get mad at me in the comments. It's one of the best pop albums from the last 10 to 15. I am not fucking playing. He's an ex. I cannot wait to work with him one day, man. It's going to be magic.
Yeah, man, Justin Bieber is unbelievable. I love him. Like, I think
Awesome.
that album Purpose is incredible. It's such a great record. Like, it's amazing. But yeah, man, I for music for me, it's and as a producer, yeah, you can find what appeals and the excellence in anything, even if it's underground. And dude, I miss 2017, dude. Like, I miss the era
Mm-hmm.
when X was still like he blew up initially, and then dude, music
Mm-hmm.
felt like such a incredible thrive like during then with X and Juice and Little Peep and all these Suicide Boys, and then you had Trippie Redd, and then you had even Little Pump, man. Like, because I understood why people love Little Pump, but all of those people combined was like this chaos that like emerged this incredible music scene at that time. But it couldn't have been done without X. X initially set that off. I remember listening to Look at Me and like, sipping tea in your hood, and I'm like listening to this stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is like blown out, aggressive, raw, just like, and this is getting played on the radio, man. Like, what is going on? Like, I remember like even Justin, because Justin's significantly older than me, but he I remember him like when this stuff, he was like, I would have never imagined this would ever be like one of the top charting songs. Like this,
Yeah, dead ass.
it's crazy because what I loved about X is that he did break the boundaries of what appeals, and not just to like a specific audience, to everybody. And that he had the alternative people, he had the underground people, and he also had the mainstream people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so that was wild. Like, everybody was into X because there was something just about him and the way he was able to take metal and rock and this raw sound and this hard trap, and then go to something like 17 where it's very lo-fi and melodic, and it's rapping about really deep depression, heartfelt stuff. Like, there was something about that, and Justin Bieber would never do that, you know what I mean? Like, X was an anomaly for sure. And despite, I mean, a lot of people claim, oh, well, he had publicity and you had all this like controversy surrounding him, and whether he did or not, though, the fact of the matter is that regardless of controversy, I don't think controversy is what makes you big, or neither that, just last in general. You know what I mean?
You
Like,
know,
um, dude, I remember when he died, and I watched Sad, and I had chills. Like when the music video dropped, like I had chills the entire time. Like it freaked me out. Like I was like, what in the world? Like it was so bizarre. Um,
I
after
couldn't
he,
hold it together when Moonlight, the Moonlight music video dropped, man. It just hurt so bad. Like it was almost like that was a really eerie summer of 2018. And I always quote 2018 as the best year of music in my life. It was also the worst year of my life, so music got me through. But it was the best year of music I think in my entire life. And what was so funny was that summer of 2018. I mean, it was very eerie around X because a lot of what was released, especially visually, it almost it's disturbing to think about, and I don't think that's what the case was. But dude, it almost looked like he knew his time was coming. Like when you look at how that Moonlight music video was done, when you look at
yeah,
how sad and cute it's like it hurt me to watch so much. I couldn't take it.
it was spooky. Did you ever watch that documentary or listen to any of that released on Hulu about him?
See, me and my bro Kai were talking about it. So he watched it. I think he said he didn't finish it. I waited so many years and was mad they didn't release that. I was mad so many years. I was like, man, y'all like 4 years late with this shit, and they were. And when it dropped, I couldn't watch it, and let me tell you why. I still haven't watched it, and I'm going to, but I still have not watched it for the reason it hurts a lot to go back because the reason why X was probably my favorite artist of all time in just that little short tenure of time when I was listening to his music, a year plus, year and a half, whatever. The from when I first discovered him, almost 2 years, if not 2 years. But the reason why he was able to become my favorite artist is because he released that much music. But when it's that many songs that it literally sounds like an artist is narrating your life, you have no choice but to gravitate towards that. I mean, I felt like he was writing the songs on my behalf a lot of the time, and that's when people really begin to connect with an artist, and that's what made him so special. So when I listen to X, a lot of it will still trigger a lot of that heartbreak. Of the late 2010s and early 20s, like it'll still trigger a lot of that trauma that he was helping me cope with through his sound, helping me cope with sonically, and going back and seeing that documentary, I just felt like I wouldn't even be able to keep it together. So I was like, now I'm actually terrified to watch the shit.
Yeah, I I had listened to it a little bit when I was driving from New York to here, and
Mm,
I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding it because they had a lot of different people they didn't leave it. Like Denzel Curry, for example, wasn't in it, and you know, X obviously had lived with Denzel, and they
yeah.
didn't even acknowledge him or have him in it, and I thought that was kind of weird. Why they wouldn't?
Mm,
But I I've from what I listened to about it, and yeah, I mean it is obviously hard to listen to it and to go through it. I felt like though they did a very good job at not painting him just to be a villain at all or anything like that or this bad person because he wasn't,
mhm.
but just showing his progression, and it wasn't done in a way that was disrespectful to him or his legacy at all. Because I know there's people that just straight up fucking hate X and think
Oh,
that
for sure.
that he was just this clown that got popular and shit, and that always rubs me the wrong way, obviously. But it's and I get that some people they don't get it, and but I thought that it did a good job. But yeah, they took way too long on getting that out, and maybe it's because they just didn't have all the information. What do you think it's true, or what do you think about the whole? They posted that thing pretty recently. I don't know if you've seen it online, but the whole thing is like people thinking that Drake had something to do with killing him. Like,
That is something. That's something.
Like,
um, it's so I saw. Well, it's impossible because I want to go back to when the assassination happened in June of 2018.
mm-hmm.
And obviously everybody remembers the X and Drake, stint with that, little bit of a feud where X had felt like Drake had stolen his flow and everything, and then there might have been a little bit of, Drake is always dominant, always since Wayne went and got him in '09,
Yeah.
has always dominated the mainstream. But was there a bit of annoyance or side eyeing that this dude is over here and he's making a very underground sound, but is able to culminate the same cult like masses, like the same cult like fandom that you have? Like, I wonder if some of that was going on. So off the bat, when X was killed, everybody's gonna come up. I mean, it was like this with Tupac, with Biggie. It was like this within a sort. I mean, Peep died before X as well. There's an assortment of conspiracy theories when any public figure dies. I mean, holy fuck. But especially, I think when rappers and musicians will die as well. You'll hear a lot of shit like that. Hell, when Michael Jackson died, many conspiracy theories I'd like to dive in as well, but I won't dive into them on recording because I don't know who's watching. but
Yeah.
with the X and Drake thing, I don't want to say too much about that, but what's crazy is I love Drake. I've told you the influence that Drake has had on me as well.
Oh, I love Drake too. I think Drake is
Drake.
it easily in my top 5 rappers. Like
He's in the back of my top 10. He's in it though. Out of everyone I've listened to in rap, he's had one of the biggest impacts on me ever.
yeah, man, I absolutely love Drake. This, I've always just thought he's incredible, but I do wonder though, yeah, about the controversy of that. I feel like for him to go that far though is kind of pushing it.
To me, it seems kind of outlandish when people would say that, but I will say, as much as I love Drake, I'm still allowed to hold people accountable. I'm not going to accuse anybody of pulling strings, calling a hit, conspiring against human life. I'm not going to do that because that's not my place, and this isn't a court of law. So, but what I will say is, if I had the opportunity to talk about it with Drake, or if the day that does come, I may not bring it up, but if it does come up, there's an assortment of things I would state that rubbed me the wrong fucking way. And I'm just going to be completely honest. If you go back, things like in the Sicko Mode music video,
Yeah.
I did Zan 13 hours till I land. Got me out like a light. It's not the line, it's the imagery of someone with their dyed dreads tied up like that really resembles a certain someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, just it's stuff like that. It's stuff like on this. I think it was on this last project that you just dropped. I don't remember if it was a single, if it was on the project, but something talking about some fucking. I'm gonna take that 10, break the 10, do a 5 again. If he held his tongue on that live, he'd be alive again. Shit like that. I don't do. What the fuck is that creepy ass music going on? But anyway, I don't know what the fuck that is. But
Outside your house. Whoa, you said creepy music? Where?
yeah, I was like, hang on a second, let me. I don't know where the fuck that's coming from. Hell, I hope it don't come from me talking about Drake, but
It's just dude. He's already there.
But anyway, I'm gonna throw someone driving by or something. But anyway, like if I had the opportunity to talk about it with Drake, I don't do this conspiring thing, and I don't do accusations and shit like that. And I definitely don't do name dropping if I was in the media or anything like that, or in the public eye, where I would air that out and try to throw him under the bus, because I don't know any connection like that. And at the end of the day, it is a lot of social media talking. But there would be a number of things that I would bring up to Drake that rubbed me the wrong motherfucking way. And I'm just being dead ass. And I'm at the point where I'm gonna be very fucking annoyed if I get any other thing that rubs me the wrong way about Drake potentially doing some type of sneak diss at X or some close call that people think because I can let it go one time off of, a strike. I can let it go twice, but a third strike, that, that all right, that's not a coincidence anymore. That's what I would bring up to Drake, but I don't really have too much of a say, I think, in
Yeah.
Drake's involvement, or at least I haven't had to, at least yet. But there's some things that's made me, I've definitely thought.
Oh yeah, man. It's definitely a little. Well, it's not a little. It's very suspicious, 100%, and a lot of the shit he has said. And to me, though, Drake just seems like the kind of guy that he would play into it. Because
Mm,
Drake, as much as Drake seems like the kind of guy to be on his phone looking at what people are saying about him. I'm sorry, like he's not ignoring what people are saying about him, or he's not looking online to see what's going on. Yeah, he 100% is. Like he just
Yes, I
seems
mean,
like the
even
kind of
down to
guy.
his Instagram. Look at his Instagram comments. He limits them. When they were doing the Drake is the type of nigga to do this meme, he absolutely played into that because we've seen it. He sees it. He see. I mean, I feel like shit. We all see it. I love that Drake talks about it too because hell, we all see it. I mean, he got 100+ million followers, one of the biggest artists globally, and he'll let you know he sees it.
Yo, yeah, he is 100% seeing that people are accusing him of that. So in my opinion, maybe he's like, oh, well, what if I just play into it then? Because I don't know if you watched his interview that he posted with Rap Radar or whatever, that the one where they're sitting in his house. They're like, it's a very long interview. It's like almost 2 hours or something like that. And they're
I've
sitting
seen the
in the.
whole. What you're talking about?
Yeah, I've seen it too. And they're talking to him, and he never once brings up X, not once through that entire thing. And they're talking about like rappers that have passed away and stuff, and he even brings up Little P, but he never talks about X once, and they never even
Mm,
bring it up to him either. So, and I think that's kind of just, I don't know, it's a little odd because even to me, it's like, yeah, and like we had that controversy about the song, but it sucks that he died. Like I feel like there would have been something he would have acknowledged, but just the fact that he didn't say anything about him, I think is definitely really suspicious.
That's odd. Another line was, I'm trying to think, what was that on? What was it on? I'm upset. I forget the line, but I mean just the slick shit. I mean, I don't find it funny if that's what he's trying to be. I don't think that shit is funny at all. Just the SMS triple X. That's the only time I ever shoot below the net. Why you keep on shooting if you know that nigga dead? I mean, now I'm gonna just be completely real. That's the type of shit that pisses me off. I'm just
Yeah,
being completely honest. Yeah, I don't think that shit is fun. Again, I love Drake. That's the type of shit that pisses me off because I don't think it's funny. And I try not to. But and as a lyricist, I'm supposed to read into bars. I'm not looking over bars and everything. Even as I'm a Playboy Cardi enthusiast. I'm truly. I'm a Playboy Cardi damn near stan. So I do love the sonic material in rap, even if certain rappers are not lyrically gifted at all. But I'm a lyricist at heart, so I dissect lyrics because that's how I was raised. Hell, Drake raised me on a lot of dissecting lyrics with his double entendres and his wordplay, and me listening to that growing up. I heard Drake for the first time when I was in fucking third grade, I think. So but it's stuff like that. I try not to read too much into it, but don't give me no reason to read into shit. I just don't like that.
yeah, man. I don't like it either. It's definitely suspicious. That's why I just don't understand. It's like, why are you putting so many shots in it? And if it's so purposeful, and it's like, to me, it's like you're playing into it, the controversy, or you actually did have something to do with it. You know.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, who knows? To me, it just seems very far fetched. It's like, okay, if Drake really did do something, for him to pay these guys to go to follow X to this place where he was picking up the car,
Mhm.
it seems like, I don't know, how did Drake exactly convince these guys and they still got caught and arrested? So it's like,
Yeah.
how would he have done it, or how would he have convinced these guys, or I don't know. So to me, that doesn't add up or anything at all. So the only thing I can think of is that he's like just playing into it, and that's what I think he's
Mhm.
doing, which is still shitty though. It's like there's no point in playing into it and being, disrespectful, regardless if you didn't like him or not. It's like,
Mhm.
if I don't like somebody, I'm not going to be singing about, oh yeah, I'm glad they're dead. Like,
Mhm.
regardless, no matter how much I hated that person, like that's just there's a lot of bad karma to that, and I don't think there's anything that comes out of that that's good. Um,
There is. It's very interesting to see what I'll. I'm intrigued to see what will happen in the court case of, because apparently the dude that had shot X, that's being held right now. He wants Drake apparently to be a fucking witness, um, in court with this thing going on, and I'm just intrigued to see. I mean, it's kind of a specific person to name. Again, I hold my tongue, but
Shave me a
very.
poppy, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, you could have named a lot of people. I'm not gonna lie. First of all, you technically didn't even name a United States citizen. You could have named a lot of people.
Yeah.
You could have named a lot of people. I'm keeping a close eye on that, and the world will keep a very close eye on that. I'm just saying, I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, it's very. I'm intrigued too, man. I'm wondering to see. I always wanted to know what your opinion of it was, because I just think it's weird, and I don't know. I think Drake at this point, he's too rich, and he's not stupid. Even if he is pulling these
Yeah.
shots, he's not stupid. So it's like, um I don't know. Like, he's not gonna get. I don't know. I don't think anything's going to happen to him. Um,
Yeah, you're chasing a world icon here, and likely too much of a power. In all honesty, if anything sketchy like that was uncovered, but I mean, at the end of the day, regardless, that that trigger was pulled, and we had a generational artist, and even more than that, we had a human being taken from Earth on that day, and it impacted a lot of. I can't even say a lot of people, just and I don't even know. I can't even when I run out of verbiage for it. Like,
yeah,
it shows like true toll of how many people X impacted globally. I mean, we're sitting here right now, dude. We're artists that have touched a lot of people. How many comments do we get a day on our music from people around the world that they're impacted by what we're done? And a lot of the time, I have no choice but to look over on my bedroom wall and see 17 hanging on it and be like, if it weren't for that fucking project, it's like, yeah, I mean, they're thanking me. I'm like, dude, I feel like I should thank him every time somebody thanks me, you know?
yeah, for sure. Are you? Do you ever feel weird when people have reached out to you, or people that have listened to your music and say, "Hey, you've inspired me so much," and have been like fans? And do you ever get weirded out by that, or do you feel like, in my instance, I guess, and the reason why I bring it up is because sometimes I feel like I try to avoid that kind of stuff, because I write a lot of this music. At least in my perspective, for me, I write this music pertaining to me. Like, it's in
Mhm.
my perspective, which I'm sure you do for yourself too. It's in your perspective, but
Mhm.
so when somebody reaches out to me and they're like, especially since I've been promoting slam posting hate yourself, so much on TikTok, it's like I get a lot of
Mhm.
DMs on Instagram from people coming from TikTok, and they'll be like, I just got out of this terrible abusive relationship. Your song, saved me. I really needed it, and all this stuff. And I try to avoid looking at this because it kind of just messes with my head a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
of feeling like that, um you I guess because the art is coming from this sincere place, I never want to feel like I'm in a position where I'm trying to write it for other people, if that makes sense. And I know that there
Mhm.
is there is artists that they do write for other people. You know, they specifically write music for other people, and that's cool too, whatever works for them. But I feel like songs that really resonate with people the most is the songs that are personal from that artist's perspective. You know,
Uh-huh.
um, I don't forget from you, like, that that's like, to me, like a really, really deep song about
Hmm.
from just you and your perspective. And but does that ever weird you out though, of like when people have reached out to you ever about your music, or how do you feel like you cope with
So
that?
I would say, okay, so the only thing that's ever that I was ever off put by when people reached out to me in support but tried to make a comparison was when early on, and you can still see it on my posts, especially early on. Like if you go to, I would say if you go to one of my darker themed music videos where there's a lot of lyricism and the spades know, I'm talking about Just Me, I'm talking about Broken, I'm talking about I Don't Forget. Those especially, I would say Crush and Pursuit as well, which are really happy ass songs, but the nature of the Shiloh Dynasty sample, which I want to touch on too. The only thing a comparison ever was off putting for me was when X fans used to see me for the first time and see I was getting traction, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, he's a lyricist. He's got like the alt aesthetic as too. He's like the emo boy, and he can rap." Oh my god, I remember, dude. Do you remember on like Just Me and Broken, people used to go as far and be like, "Oh my god, this is the reincarnation of X."
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
I used to, dude. I had to. I used to just have to pull people aside in the fucking comments and be like, please do not. First of all, that doesn't make any sense. I'm literally 19 years old and he was like 2 years older than me. How the fuck would I be reincarnated? Like, I was like, the math doesn't even work. But like, what was off-putting to me is that I always wanted to show the influence of X. I never wanted to be the next X. First of all, there will never be another. And just the same in 5 years, you'll look up in 10 years, or maybe, I mean, damn, in 100 years when I'm actually an old man and dead and gone. Like people will be like, oh well, there will never be another Erris, so it'll be the same way. But I never could bear the torch of X, which is why I didn't want that comparison. So that was the only time it was off-putting to me. But when people reach out to me and say that they're inspired by what I'm doing, um, I would say it's not so much creepy or anything to me like that or annoying to me. I would I would say it goes two ways. One, I'm very happy that people are influenced by what I'm doing as well. Um, especially if they're like influenced by the rock, like you'll see on Oreo, because I guarantee it. Like I manifest that. You're already seeing it happen around the world. People, especially like black alts and rock heads. I mean, that's the whole idea behind the Oreo project. Is like when you like a lot of this rock music or shit that's like predominantly white, like somehow you're an Oreo. Super corny, but like it's I like when people are influenced by what I'm doing. I like when, I mean, shit, it'll happen in Atlanta. You'll see hood niggas like paint their nails black when they never would have did that shit. Like one of my favorite things I've seen in rap, actually my favorite thing I saw in rap in 2020 was when Young Boy at the end of 2020 painted his nails black and started experimenting with rock. That shit, that shit was fucking insane. Like the fact that like Young Boy and Playboy Cardi are experimenting with all culture. Like when people see that with me, I would be honored if people commented they were influenced by that, and I saw the influence in their own. It don't even have to be in music, in the way you dress, and the way you present yourself, and the way you enjoy life. Um, like so that would be happy for me. But the other way it would go is I don't want people replicating exactly what I do. There's a difference, of course, and you know it because I remember literally going to you one day, and we were talking on the phone, and I was like, dude, I don't know how much you love Linkin Park or Chester specifically, and you told me you loved them. And I was like, that is so incredible because I can hear the influence in Nathyn's voice, but he's not copying Chester at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the example I give to people of the fine line between influence and direct like imitation, you know? So I don't want anybody trying to be Erris. I don't want anybody doing that. I don't even want people writing the same songs as me or style as me. If you haven't felt that, like, dude, if you've got like a girlfriend for 2 years who you think you're gonna marry and you're like riding off in the sunset to her, why are you writing an I Don't Forget? what the fuck? Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like,
Yeah.
you should be fucking happy, you know. So, I just don't. I want people to channel whatever emotions they're feeling, and like then a lot of it's like happy emotions, like happy ass music. People say a lot of music that is sad sells. Do people not look at the charts? A lot of the music. What the fuck does Bad Bunny do then?
Yeah.
Bad Bunny's not writing X is 17. That is not like he's selling out these stadiums globally, you know? So people need to channel emotion, find their aesthetic, and write something that they know. I'm not like all that fast food ass music people are doing. That shit don't mean nothing. And to be honest, if you break in the music industry doing that, you ain't gonna be happy doing this because there's not a lot of money long term in that. But when people truly find that pocket, that pocket where they can tell a story and it's fused with their life experience and stuff like that, the way mine was. If yours lines up similar to mine, that's fine. But I don't want imitation. I want influence, and it doesn't bother me when people say that as long as they're not, you know, when you get those messages on Instagram. Oh, dude, I loved your whole project. Like, you know, I fuck with I Don't Forget. I loved Just Me. Dude, do you think like you could feature on my song even though I've never made a song before and I only have like 60
Yeah.
followers and no profile picture and no
Oh,
username and I'm
bro.
I'm using a fucking Apple? It's like, dude, no.
Oh,
It's like I love
man.
y'all, man, but absolutely not because it doesn't. I don't think you're in this for the right intentions, you know.
Yeah, man. I have so many DMs of just people asking for features and features and features and features. And
Mm-hmm.
it you know, back in the day, it was just, and even now, I still get people that just are like, "Yeah, man, can you feature on my project?" And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even have two songs out. Why do you want me to feature on your project? And they're just like, well, you sound amazing, man. I'm like, okay, but that doesn't make you an artist, though. Like, that doesn't, just because I hop on one of your songs doesn't mean it's going to, like, you got to think of this as like a product in a store, and you're the artist. You're the superhero. Like when I think of Nathyn, and my real name's Ben or Benjamin. Like I think of
Mm-hmm.
Nathyn as like the Batman, of me, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
I think of him, the guy with the weird, creepy videos on YouTube, and it's like this psychological story of me just releasing these videos I'm recording over my life and time, because it's kind of just reflecting this, psychological side of what's actually happening to me. And
Mm-hmm.
reflecting on that, and yeah, man, the features thing is just is so bizarre to me. And I've even gotten asked from pretty big people about doing some features, and they've sent me stuff, and I never just was really into it, and I never just decided to just do it for the sake of doing it, just because I didn't really ever feel like it. Um, but yeah, man, it's crazy too how much rap, like, even the new MGK album, how they had, Wayne, and they,
Mm-hmm.
they had just rappers, and just the whole genre bending and genre blending now, to me, I think is incredible, and that's a perfect example of it. And I remember when NBA YoungBoy released Emo Rockstar. Do you remember when he released
Mm-hmm.
that, bro? Like,
Holy shit.
yeah, and that popped off. That got like real attention, and I was
Mm.
I was like shocked by that he even went into that direction. I like never would have thought NBA YoungBoy would hop on like doing rock and metal or punk or any of that, but it's become such a mainstream
He's
thing
like,
now.
you like the aesthetic of it, but emo rockstar was still like a trap song. Like when I heard it, I was like, oh man, fuck! I wanted to hear, like, I really wanted to hear like guitars and shit, like drums crash. I was like, yo, what the fuck? When I saw that thumbnail, I was like, he's really doing this, and then it ended up being a trap song. I was like, nah, he's gotta go all in. He's gotta go all in. And then you're hearing like snippets of him doing like the very guitar heavy shit, which I hope he really releases that.
Yeah, I really want to hear Post Malone do it.
We
I think,
just said that at my bro's house. We were waiting for that still.
yeah, I remember us talking about that, because I feel like Post could absolutely crush that. Um, yeah, man,
Hmm.
it's pretty it's pretty incredible. I'm really excited to hear what you have planned for here for Oreo. Um, and just hearing because after you've done it's not a phase mom, and then after coming from bipolar, from your recent projects, I'm really excited to hear just the new material that you have going for you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about it. Just being able to blend, obviously a full-on trap punk album here, being able to blend pop punk and hard rock and new metal and alternative metal and being able to showcase lyricism again. My pen is hot right now. Yeah, so being able to showcase the new lyricism and then just the fusion of rock and rap and making it like a cultural movement. I didn't want this to be another project. I want this to be some shit where, if a major label, sign me off with some shit like this, it'd be awesome. But, I want people to really remember Oreo. That's why the rollout for this is so important for me. Every image I post on Instagram, feed and story, every reel, every TikTok, every, the music videos that come out, interviews I'll do, blog posts you'll see. Um, I really want it to be impactful in a movement where you see a lot of people like really embrace like rock into the mainstream again. Not just for a little bit. Obviously they did it with MGK, and then there's other people like Jaden, Ian Dior, Trippie Redd. Uzi had this. I don't know if you ever heard it, but Uzi had that pop punk song. Shit, that apparently he recorded in like 2016 or 17, but it was called Psycho that he never
Yep.
released.
Hmm.
Dude, I wish he would have released that. Holy fuck, I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it. Yeah, I wish he released it too because I think it would be great.
It would have did so well, and it's like, but shit like that, being able to capitalize on that fusion between rock and rap, which I'll hear like people do the Yeet guitar covers, and I'm like, oh man, Yeet should do this, and then he doesn't do it, or like Cardi will do like these guitar based metal like trap metal, snippets, but then they're not getting commercially released. Like I'm one of the only cats. There's this cat in Atlanta that I've been listening to this weekend. His name's literally Hard Rock, and he, bro, he's so dope. Now he's gonna get in trouble for using these fucking Deftones samples and these Linkin Park samples, but it is, dude, it's hard, and that's what people need to do. But even then, I look at him sometimes and I'm like, oh, dude, if his aesthetic wasn't just that hoodie and them sweatpants, like
Yeah.
people would really, really buy in. Like it's just like I feel like I'm the only cat. I'm not gonna be the only, which I love. I'm gonna be the only rapper on these stages with my guitar as I'm rapping, as I'm singing, like playing drums in between this shit while still being able to have the rap energy of a show mixed it with rock. So I'm excited about that, and that's what Oreo's about. It's about kickstarting that, and even when I do like the Oreo Deluxe, like I'm thinking about doing like an Oreo double stuffed a year and a half from now. Like it's just like the methodical approach of releasing something that will make the masses move. I'm talking about millions of people globally, and I'm excited about it.
For sure, man. And we can take the time just to get every song just sounding super dope and just
For
take it.
sure.
To me, like I believe, and if there's anything I have learned just in my own music and just promoting and seeing what works is that if you spend a good amount of time on just making a really good song, that
Mm-hmm.
good song will carry you so far, so far. It's just a song, and a lot of people, I think, they're like, oh man, I gotta, I have to have a ton of music, but they're not thinking about the longevity of it, and they're not thinking about, well, how long is this going to last? Like what I've learned from just always want to die and then doing hate yourself, that if you really hone down and you just make an absolute smash, you can make that song and the quality and the lifespan of it and the longevity last and reach hundreds and thousands of, if millions of more people just off of the one song.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that's the thing I've learned that's really important is, and the cool thing about, I feel like, doing and executing, if you're going to do like a plan, 5 songs first and then 5 songs later on for Oreo, we could go through all of them and just find out, because you're an incredible songwriter, it's just finding the one that's like, okay, this is definitely it. and using that as like that lead single or however you really want to go about doing the rollout. But just
Mm-hmm.
pushing that and pushing it and pushing it on TikTok, and once you just hit that initial bang, man, that's it. That's it. I don't even have to keep promoting hate yourself at this point. I'm just doing it to do it. Like I don't have to. Like when I look at the playlisting for hate yourself right now, it just is getting natural accumulated streams regardless of me pushing it on TikTok or not. But I'm still doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it because I'm just thinking in my head like, well, it's already getting like 2,000, 3,000 streams a day. It's pretty good. But it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
what if I can just make it just pop even harder, just keep popping it even farther and even harder and harder and harder. And Justin, he was like, oh, we can spend time, and we are right now. And I've been writing some new rock music and trying to just perfect it. I think I got a new one that's just as good as Hate Yourself finally, that I was really trying to reach. But we were just talking about like just the longevity of, let's just make every song just have an insane amount of replay value and longevity. And if you can do that, that's really the key, because that will last you for so long, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna have the biggest impact. Um, it's just getting that is, if you can do that, you're completely set. And it's kind of like, it's again, as an artist, it's kind of like you have to look at as each song as like a product, in a sense of like, okay, how can I get this to be well wrote, and the feeling of it and the replay value of it to be huge, and how do I make that? And for example, when I released Soul, even my most recent, Soul was just kind of me just wanting to sing a piano ballad. But even me releasing that, I knew it wasn't just going to be just as good as Hate Yourself. It's a completely different vibe. But I also knew that the replay value wasn't absolutely huge. Like, it's a cool piano ballad song. I kind of knew what it was for and it was supposed to do. With me pushing it on TikTok, though, alongside of Hate Yourself, I'm kind of seeing like the results of both of them kind of getting popular and how different people resonate with both. But that's the key, man. Like, Always Want to Die, I have not pushed Always Want to Die ever since literally a year ago, and that song still gets plays, thousands of plays a day, and I'm not even doing anything anymore to that. So I've just realized that if I can just make the songs have extreme replay value, but that's hard too, because then you're extremely hard on yourself. That's my main problem right now, is I'm just so hard on myself, where it's like I've
Mm-hmm.
scrapped like, oh, maybe this is a cool idea. Then I do all this stuff and I make it a rock instrumental, and then I break it down, and then I try to write a cool chorus. I'm like, no, this sucks. And then I scrap it, and then I restart. So I've gotten to the point, I'm like, okay, I can't. Should I be overly hard on myself and just release something anyways?
Mm-hmm.
Or should I spend time until I get that other next banger and just
I'm the
keep.
same way because, like for example, well, that's why for a lot of time I didn't want to produce my own stuff, because I was just like, if I produce my own stuff, like, it's gonna be good enough. Like, am I even gonna like it? I was like, I'd rather just have somebody create something ready made for me, or they kind of know the sound that I want. I could type a type beat into YouTube, then everybody's got, I can eliminate it down from there. For a long time, hell, if I wasn't doing this freestyle with, this very stripped down guitar and everything, and these drums, which, it's the drums are, it's a pretty full, mix of drums. But if I didn't know exactly what I was looking for on something like this, then I wouldn't that this wouldn't even be my first self-produced track, and there's gonna be two self-produced tracks on this project. Well, the freestyle won't go. I actually am not gonna put the freestyle on this project, but I will put another self-produced track that I'm doing on it. But yeah, I'll be overly hard on myself, dude. Hell, on I Don't Forget, the final speed verse, like the final quick time verse of that, the hollering and screaming, never in a fucking sleeping, in a lucid dreaming, like that shit. Mike had me in the studio so much until I just kept getting that down, and I know exactly how it was going to be executed. But I was like, dude, I don't even know if I'm going to keep this in anymore. I might rewrite it while I'm in the studio, because he gave me the studio for as much time as I needed that day off. One charge, so that was dope, and that's my guy.
Nice.
But for a while. While I was in there, I was like, dude, I don't even know if this is good enough. Now that I'm like doing it in the studio, I was like, nah, keep it in. We just got to get the timing out because it's a tongue twister for sure, and it's a quick time verse. I didn't really like that when we were done with it. Even when I heard the final mix and I just put it out, and that's damn near everybody's favorite part of that song. So then that kind of rewired my mind, and I was like, damn, are we sometimes hardest on ourselves for like when we'll be harder on material when everybody loves it, like I feel like sometimes we're too hard on ourselves to agree.
Oh yeah, and I absolutely know I have that issue with myself, and that's something I'm trying to balance a little bit, and I'm trying to like be. That's why I kind of just released Soul, because I was like, okay, let me just throw something out there. It doesn't have to be a rock song. It doesn't have to be an absolute smash like the Hate Yourself or Always Want to Die. I can just release this chill indie lo-fi kind of vibe and just throw it out there, and not be overly hard or overly critical on myself. On it, sometimes you have to just. I feel like there has to be a mix. It's finding that mix, like of not every song has to be an absolute smasher or banger. It just if you can get one of them though, and then release it coincide,
Yeah,
alongside the other tracks. That's kind of the goal because you are going to have those diehard fans that will just love anything you release no matter what. Like, I still get people messaging me like,
yeah,
dude, I love Hey, and I love Fly Away From You, bro. I hate those songs. I hate those songs. I cannot stand listening to those songs from me. Like, I look back at when I was doing like Fly Away or Hey, and I feel like I sound like such a cringy fuck, bro. Like, I feel like I sound so bad on all those. Like, all the vocal takes, I feel like
me on It's Not a Phase Mom, bro. Like I'm just saying, it's been a year since that, and I'm grateful for that project because it'll show progression with Oreo. But like the fact that people were like sending me my best friends, especially, and they don't ever bullshit because they weren't. I have a couple of my best friends who weren't that into something like, let's say, Bowler or like unorthodox where it's super trap metal, but then they loved Prophecy. Like people will hit me, even if they're not my best friends. People who ain't got no skin in the game, like no stake, will be like, oh, dude, I fucking love Prophecy. Like, that was one of my top, like, 50 most streamed songs this year. I was like, motherfucker, really? Because Nathyn carried that fucking song. Like,
no, man. I just wish I had produced. I just wish we could have sat down because the thing is about all of that EP, man, is the songwriting, your melodies, everything was there.
mm,
100%. The entire foundation, dude, was there. Was incredible, man. And I'm not just saying that to say that to you. I just wish we could have produced it better. I just wish the
and it's
production
damn
would have
late.
been
So you
tighter.
already, you already know that's one of the things I want to go back and do is definitely like retackle that project. And hell, that could be part of the Oreo Deluxe high key because a lot of people will not have even listened to that fucking project. That wouldn't be the first time like an artist has taken songs from their past, redone them, revamped them, and put them on some new shit because people haven't really heard it like that in mass. So yeah, that door is still open.
I definitely think it's worth pursuing because, like, I remember me and Justin listening to it after you released it, and he was like, dude, if we had just spent the time to produce this in a really super proper way, and Erris was able to get as many vocal ticks as we could get, it would have been insane. It would have been dope because the songwriting, the foundation, all of it is there. It's all incredible. Atlanta Skyline, A Prophecy, all of it. It's just dope. And so that was the only thing that I really, really wish that could have nailed it because it's all there. And to me, I love it still too. And I definitely think it's worth pursuing. I remember Motionless in White, their second album, I believe it was their second album. Um, they had to re-release that whole album because they initially went in and they rushed it and they had a lot of issues with it. Not just like with vocals, but the mixing, the production. I can't remember if you go on YouTube and there was like there's an old version of that album, and if you listen to that whole album, the old version of it, it sounds not anything like the revamped version where they went back to the studio and
Wow.
they redid the entire album. They redid all of it, and it sounds night and day difference. Like it's insane. Like it doesn't even sound like you can tell it's the same songs, but the production quality, the vocals, um, everything about it sounds way better. And
Mhm.
not all the time production matters though. For instance, it really just depends on what you're going for. For example, Soul. Um, Justin was like, "Oh, I feel like Soul needs to be better produced. I feel like it needs to have this and that." Everyone I showed Soul to though loved it and thought it sounded really good, and the vocals are good, and the moodiness of just this piano and this like ambient sounds in the background and it being this piano ballad. The thing is like a song like that where the vocals are just really the main thing that's highly produced on that song is just the vocals. But everything else isn't very highly produced in that song. And but when you're trying to do something like Hate Yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have really good, tight, clean production, it doesn't resonate the same. Like it just doesn't work in comparison. And it just depends on the vibe you're going for. Like Ballard, for example, we can make a bunch of Ballards just sound like clipped and distorted and sound like old X's stuff, and you would still sound dope. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
Because it doesn't have to be like super clean or polished. None of it does. Like it can sound just totally clipped. Like look at Scarlord's stuff, dude. Like I listen to some of his mixes and they're like clipped and blown out, and his vocals are distorted and screaming, and reverb's jacked all
Yeah.
the way out, and the reverb's insane on all of it. Like those mixes sound, they just sound fucked. Like they sound insane.
Mhm.
Like, but that's the point of it, though. So it kind of works for that style, like
Yes.
it doesn't have to sound super polished. What I like about Bob Ballard, though, and the guy that mixed your vocals for Ballard and your trap metal stuff in general, he did a really good
Mhm.
job at making it sound like polished, but also clipping and also having your vocals really in the forefront still and really letting them
Yeah,
shine.
absolutely. What excellent. Honestly, boy, I was so fucking happy. What an excellent job with those vocals. On stuff like that, I was really happy how they came out on Unorthodox as well, which is an underrated one for me.
Oh yeah,
Because that one,
yeah.
even from the name Unorthodox, that song ain't for everybody, but I fucking love Unorthodox. That's like if I got a sleeper song I gotta put people on to, that Unorthodox definitely one of them.
Yeah, man, you sound. I remember hearing you screaming, and I was just like, "What in the world?" Did you just were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start just doing this," and you just started doing it?
Yeah,
Or you,
I knew I could scream, and it's so funny because I had to. I told you this story before too. When I really started wanting to scream in my songs, I used to start by like just screaming along to a lot of the screamo rap that was dominating the late 2010s and the early 2020s, but especially the late 2010s. So like Josiah's Crisis was like a big one for me. I fucking loved that. And I used to scream to these songs. Bro, I remember the first time I did it to Josiah's Crisis, I lost my voice for a week, like a
damn.
full 7 days. Then I was like, man, fuck that. I should be able to scream. I don't know. I just kept tackling that, and I went back, screamed some more to something like that, or like X's "Pain Will Always Be My Best Friend" or "Pain Equals My Best Friend." And I screamed to that. Probably lost my voice for 3 days. Then went back, lost it for a day. Went back, lost it for a couple hours. Went back, and then it's like when I was getting into Scarlord, especially, I was just screaming nonstop, and I wouldn't lose my voice. So it got to the point. I guess it got to the point where I was so conditioned, and I grew up kind of screaming to metal, especially too. So I was kind of shocked by that. Um, but it got to the point where my voice was so conditioned, I was able to scream from an octave or add an octave, and scream from my gut helped me a lot too. Instead of actually trying to scream from your throat and your vocal cords, but like starting that in your gut, it helped condition my voice and get my scribbling to a point where it's like, I mean, because I truly believe, I don't have a ton of screamo stuff upcoming, but I do have songs with that are very trap metal. They incorporate elements of like trap metal and screamo, and I believe, bro, that shit can be mainstream. Like my dream's always been like doing some screamo shit while Travis Scott does some very mosh pit auto tune heavy shit, like in a dark aesthetic. I
Yeah.
feel like that would just be ballistic. Like that's like my dream is to get like T Scott, especially on like me doing some screamo infused shit. Because I know it can still be mainstream. We've seen it multiple times in history. It's just about how you go about executing it, But that's definitely how I started screaming, and I just know it can be done.
For sure. What I like about you, and you see, the thing is about Scarlord, even though I love Scarlord, is it's hard for me to listen to a whole Scarlord project, and
Yeah, I
mainly
understand.
it's because it's just the same thing.
Yeah,
And it's not that it's not that he's not good at it. I'm not saying that he's not, but
mhm.
I like it being mixed up. And one thing I like about you is that, or with bipolar, is that it's mixed up. Like you have songs where you're just straight up rapping and you're just going bar after bar after bar, and then you have songs that are more chill, and then you have songs that are really in your face and the screaming, and I like dynamics in music, and especially in an album. And a good album to me has to keep it always interesting. And when I kind of expect the next song to sound like the next song after that song, and then the next song after that song, and then the song after that sounds like, it eventually starts to
Yeah,
all kind of become predictable. And you eventually stop keeping my interest in it. Like, for example, Breaking Benjamin. Um,
hmm
like I love Breaking Benjamin. Like they have a lot of really great banger songs, but I cannot listen to an album from Breaking Benjamin. And well, I don't know about that. I think there's only one album I've been able to thoroughly enjoy all the way through from them, and that was Phobia. But every album after that or so on forth, I can't listen to because it's the same thing. And it's just listening to the same thing. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because again they know what their fans want and the audience wants, and there's kind of a beauty, I feel like, if you can just kind of do the Scarlord thing and you can just keep running and doing the same thing and have a die-hard cult following. There's nothing wrong with that, but
yeah,
if you can always keep it interesting though, and you can appeal to not just one person or one type of person, I feel like you have more of a chance of being successful. Like if you are only making just me's, right? You're only going to hit a, a certain amount of people. But then when you make something that's more up and hype, you're going to hit then completely different types of people. And then when you make the scream metal or you make pop punk or alternative, you're going to hit all these different niches of people. So if they're like, that's kind of why I've always done what I've done. I've had people being like, dude, just keep doing rock. Just keep doing rock. Why are you making a piano ballad where you're sounding sad and singing in falsetto? Just do rock. It's like, because I don't want to only have one thing for one type of person. That's
absolutely.
that's all it boils down to, is that like, I can't show my grandma like Hate Yourself and expect her to like it, right? Like
Right.
she's not gonna be like, oh yeah, this sounds great, like she's not gonna get it. But if I showed her Soul, she would love Soul. So
Yeah,
it doesn't make, if you can do all of these things really well, which you can, you're not just hitting a type of person or a type of audience. If you can hit multiple audiences and fit different molds, you have way more chance of being successful. Now that's my opinion. Now some people disagree and they would think, well, just run with the one thing you do very well and just do only that. And to me, I don't know. I feel like that kind of just gets. I don't know. For me as an artist, it's boring. Like
Yeah.
it's very boring. But
To me, it's like the audacity of like the audacity of people to even say that to you because, well, you know how much I love them, and Fallen's one of my favorite albums of all time. We'll get into that in the top 10 albums podcast. I'll talk more about that
yeah.
because that's on mine. But you know, I love Evanescence. I love Evanescence so much. I
Oh yeah.
cry like I do. Like I've cried so much to Evanescence. I can't even take it, dude. Like can't even
Yeah.
take it. So when I hear you doing I've told you this before, just doing the super heavy rock stuff, that's like everybody's fool or bring me to life. But then when you're doing a ballad, that is the definition of my immortal, which also gets very heavy on the band version, on the outro, the second half of that song. So, and that's a band that really Amy Lee and the crew they
Oh yeah.
really specialized in getting the classical elements, the setting an atmosphere like orchestral elements, ballad elements, soft piano, and mixing it with some shit that would kick like your fucking apartment walls down. Like like and that's
Oh
just
yeah.
so that's good to me. You've mastered that. So the fact that people can't, or that there's some appreciation. Look, you're never gonna please everybody. Uh, Anybody in music will tell you that. But the fact that people can't appreciate that is just it's just so confusing because at the same time people will say you're kind of being repetitive or you're staying too much of the same. A lot of in rap, one thing they'll say is like you're repeating flows. It's like, but the minute you change your flow up, some people will criticize you. So that's why I love handpicking the spades and having the fan base that I do because they set the trend for everybody else. Like when you see me, you already need to know that it's rock and rap together. That's what you're gonna get. And break both sides, or you ain't gonna like a whole lot of what I do. And my first couple thousand fans set the mold for what 10,000 will follow, what 100,000 will follow, and everything like that. But that's what I've always loved about you with the versatility. To the point that even with my own shit, I'm like, man, Nathyn is able to do the pop, the rock, like he can scream too, like excellent screamer because you can transition. I've told you from the melody into a scream in a way that I can't. I can scream amazingly, but that is just generational, dude. And
Yeah.
I'll see you do stuff like that, and it'll just be so versatile. It'll be so versatile, and I'll be like, man, I wonder if Nathyn can get on like this trap punk ass beat where it's like guitars, this heavy ass bass, and still hold a melody. I'm like, we might as well try it because he's gonna be able to do anything. While also maintaining that dark aesthetic. So with you, same thing. Like having the versatility, it takes you so fucking far, dude. And it gives you appeal for people to work with you. I mean, you'll get features from people you didn't even think you'd get them from.
Oh yeah. Definitely. The screaming for me, and I think everyone's technique comes differently, but like for me, like I was always good at full voicing, and I was always really good with falsetto. The only thing I've had to work on the most is my really just soft and my throat singing, where I'm using my lower register. But just because I have a problem with singing too breathy sometimes, and I have to make sure that I'm actually pronouncing words correctly and just
Uh-huh.
making sure that it just comes across making sense. But yeah, I fry screaming or like seeing like you can do that just ballistic fry scream. I don't even know what you would call it. It sounds like you're almost using your false chords or something when you're screaming because it's not like you're like hitting a pitch but you're not either, where it's like when I'm thinking of screaming, right? Like um the melody of still the of hate yourself being the I feel you always smothering me, and then you got something like I'm gonna go demon demon, like how you're just hitting this one. In my head you're hitting one note, but the way you're doing it is you're using so much of this like just fry and false chord energy, and it's
Mm-hmm.
and where you're directing that from. That type of screaming is hard for me. Is the kind of screaming you're doing is because it doesn't necessarily have a melody, if that makes sense. Where I'm only really good at screaming if it has a melody to it, because I can hear the note and then I can push. The higher I raise the key, like for example, "Hate Yourself's" in a very high key, and the reason why we put it in a very high key was so I would fry scream that whole melody. If it was in a lower register, I wouldn't be able to fry scream that as well. But with you, you're doing it in a way that's coming from like this. I don't know how to describe it, and that's something I've been working on a lot. Is like how to do that kind of screaming. But yeah, man, I'm down. I'm absolutely down to hop on any trap metal shit or do more screaming stuff because that's if there's anything I've been working on the most, it's that. I've been just practicing trying to learn how to scream coming from that place and not necessarily using a pitch either. Like not relying on that it has to be a pitch or a melody.
It's like it's even hard for me when I think about it, like trying to explain how I do it. But it's just a very intense. Like I channel, even though I'm in there having fun, like I channel a lot of anger, like when I'm doing it too, because I mean it's a very aggressive tone as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I just I kind of try to like yell like I would if I was like pissed at somebody or just mad as fuck. And it just ends up sitting at like a certain level of my register when I'm screaming to where I'm able to hold it a lot and it sits in like a perfect pocket for me to where it can still come out with a lot of clarity. And I think even I'll be honest, even the octave I scream at and the way I execute it, dude, I feel like it's easier for a lot of these engineers to mix it too, because a lot of them I've had engineers mix my screaming stuff that didn't specialize in that, and they do an excellent job. Like it'll come through clear. So I'm always like, damn, like you seem like you're pretty experienced with like controlling the levels of something like that that'll kind of, like kind of blow things out of proportion and clip a lot. But, so maybe that has something to do with my voice too. But it's definitely something I had to hone a little bit and keep testing with. Like, all right, I like screaming in this tone. This is gonna sound best with this song. It's so funny because when I'm writing screamo parts, like for Valor, I didn't scream at first when I first thought of it. It's also hard to write for screaming because it's not like singing. Like, so if you've got like neighbors or something like that,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's like that's pretty fucking terrifying. Like to hear like this this intense ass screaming. So one thing I always did when I was in school, I still am, but like when I've been in like my dorms and shit, or if I was in an apartment, or if I was like at home with the family, where I was home for the break and didn't want to wake my parents or my dog up or something, I would just like whisper scream. So when I wrote Valor, um, I would just be like, "Oh my god, damn it, damn it!" And then when I hear the whisper, when I scream, I try to match the scream up with the same level that the whisper is at. It just comes out more intense, if that makes sense, So it always starts. What the fuck? How the fuck does that one song go? It literally started with a whisper.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, and that makes sense because um, with "Hate Yourself" or with any of the screaming stuff that if you can whisper it and kind of understand like what you're doing with your voice, but then just projecting it in a very intense way. So
Mm-hmm.
that makes complete sense. Yeah, man, I would love to mix your screaming though for sure, and I definitely want to do your singing too because I feel like if we just got strong takes, that's all that you need because
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you're a great singer, and if we just get just so solid, because that's the thing, man. It's like even with "Hate Yourself," dude. Like I did a ton of takes on that song. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we would just hash it out and hash it out and hash it out and hash it out and hash it out until I just got the best takes. Um, and with singing, it's a lot. It's a lot more. There's a lot of things that go into variables of singing because of the melody, the way you sound, the tonality of it, the pitches. It's a lot more of a controlled thing. Um,
Yeah.
it's a lot more to me where, like, if you have a naturally good screaming voice or a naturally good rapping voice, those things are cool too because you have a naturally cool sounding voice. So translating
Mhm.
that into singing is just the main key. But there's, I was watching uh on YouTube. They what was it? They uploaded that video of Phineas and Billy with, I can't remember what the guy's name was. He was this older guy. He was a famous musician too, but they had him in there and they were showing the stems from Happier. What is it? Man, I just lost my train of thought. Happier Than Ever, is that what it was from Billy?
Uh, for well, what was it though? For happier than ever, the stems for it.
Yeah, yeah, here it is. I found it. Okay, so Happier Than Ever, they had the guy in there and they were interviewing them and they had the project files open. There was over 450 vocal tracks
Um,
that they had to that one song. Like, they tracked over 450 vocals, which is
Holy fuck.
that's insane to me. But they literally
That's
tracked,
been-
basically, they tracked out every single line to just be absolutely perfected. Like, she even is like going on through the interview and being like, and that's a new take, and that's another new take, and that's another new take, and then that's another new take. And the guy's like, man, it sounds like it's just you singing it all together. And she's like, no, we would just keep doing takes and takes and takes, and we did about 450. And you're just like, so it sometimes it's just about getting those vocal takes to just sound just absolutely just on it completely. And if Billy's doing that, and to me 450 is insane. I guess that song though is longer, so it makes sense why they would probably have that many. But and there's also a lot of harmonies and stuff she's layering in that song. But yeah, it's definitely wild. But I absolutely can't wait because I think once now that you have the gear and you're able to track yourself out, and we could just keep referencing and listening to stuff, and then by the time I get a hold of it and we're producing it and putting it together, I think it's gonna sound awesome, man. Like, I
Yeah,
think,
I'm excited for it, dude. That's why I was also like, hell, if you ever had a free day, I was like, damn, should we get on Discord and then try to like figure out if I could like we can almost do like a virtual joint studio session of like me tracking out the shit and everything like that if possible. I was like, man, I'm just trying to figure out like the best way to go about it and getting
yep,
this first one done. Obviously, you chip away at every other song because I mean it's broken up in half. So my first my priority is just getting the first five out of the way. So, and that ain't too many damn songs. It's just making sure that they're perfected.
yeah, just definitely pick the first one that you really want to do, and then yeah, we could just hop on a video call, whether it's through Instagram or through the phone. I've done that all the time for people where they'll just be like, hey,
Mm.
can you walk me through this? And I do it. I've done it for Jordan. The when he was on here last, like, I've done it for him too with his band, and they're recording stuff and being like, well, how would you do this and how would you do that? And I'll be like, well, I would do it like this and I would do it like that. And once you have your mic set up and you understand just how to adjust the volume to make sure you're not clipping when you're tracking in
Mm.
with your vocals, that's really it. And then you just have to set the BPM on your garage band, just set up what the song BPM is. I would say in my case, or with any song's case, start tracking, like, if you know the structure of the first song, for instance, and we're not using anyone else's beats, right? Like, you're trying to make all of it from scratch, right?
Well, this one, like the first one, I am doing the freestyle. It's produced by me, but the first song is beats I already have the rights to. I already bought the beat. I bought the beat shit over a year ago, to be honest.
Oh, okay. So you got the beat. So then this is literally all just vocals. So once you figure out, or you should have the BPM or something like that to the
Yeah, he
beat.
gave me the BPM and the key.
Yeah, so you just throw the you throw the track file, the MP3 or wave, into the session of GarageBand, and then you set the BPM to whatever the BPM is, and then you can, if you need a click, you turn on the click to it with your headphones, and then you just set up your mic for it to be tracking, and then you track it at a volume to where, and again, we could just hop on a video call and I can tell you kind of how I usually set it or how loud it should be. But if you're going to be rapping or you're going to be singing, you have to adjust the volumes accordingly.
I get you.
For the mic, like if I'm screaming or something, I'm turning my volume on the interface, the Focusrite, pretty much all the way down, because if I keep it pretty high or even medium level, it's going to clip and the light's going to go red, which you don't want the mic to ever be clipping at any time. So you're going to have to track vocals just depending on what kind of style you're doing. Like if you're singing really soft or something like that, then you can boost it pretty hard. That way it's not overly quiet. But that's really it. But yeah, we can just hop on a video call and I can show you how to do that over the beat. Once you track it out, and then you track out as many layers as you want to it, and you do the takes you think are the best, then you just shoot it over to me, and then I can mix and master it. And then just
Yeah, for sure. One day to do that shit, man. Because that's definitely gonna be a big help.
Yeah, I've gotten vocals too now. Just like I've figured out just how to get vocals just to sound really good and really bright and pretty and really in the forefront compared to when we did Ghost all the way back in the day. Like I would squash vocals way too hard in the EQ. But now like I understand like how to make the vocals not sound harsh but also super bright and just like really lush and pretty. Hate Yourself, like I was able to figure out how to do that. Just getting those vocals to sound just really crispy and upfront, but not like blown out and harsh,
Yeah.
So I'm excited, man. I think it's gonna be good. But yeah, let's just start with that one, and I could just hop on a video call with you and just track it out. And I think you're gonna love producing your own stuff, especially since you can play all of these instruments and about songwriting, about song structuring. You can really just dive in deep to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And with me too, I will always be honest with you, man, and just the sense of what I think can be better. When I'm doing sessions with anybody, like even with my girlfriend Addie, like when I tracked her song "You and I" for her, when we were tracking her vocals, I'd be like, I think that could be a little tighter. I think you could make that a little smoother here. And she's an incredible vocalist, but we would just get those takes that just sounded, 100%. And I'd be like, yes, that was it. And then we move on, and then we track it out again and be like, yep, that was the take. Let's retrack that. Well, let's retrack that line just to be a little more on time, And we would just get them to sound super, super dope and really legit.
Absolutely. I love it, dude, because I mean, it's gonna make the track quality sound excellent. Because it's something, I have a music video put to it and everything, and I want people to I want it to resonate with people. That's the way it sounds in my fucking head. That's what the final product is going to sound like. So, however we can get it there is how we can get it there.
Yeah, man, and we definitely will. We absolutely will. So I'm really, really stoked, and once you really understand it and learning producing, I think you'll eventually just start doing your own mixes too. And I never not mind helping people produce at all, because the thing is producing is still itself an art and it's work. It's still a very time consuming thing. And if anybody's reaching out to me like, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I do this? I always give advice, because they're taking the time to figure it out, and going through that. And if I never had Justin there for me, I wouldn't be as good as I am now. Like Justin, I would ask him, hey, how do I do this well? Or how do I do this? How do I do that? And he would always be like, this is how you do it. And he'd be like, well, check this out. We'll check this video out. Watch this video, yada, yada, whatever it may or may not be, But yeah, man, I'm stoked. Well, I appreciate hopping on tonight.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here as always, man. Glad to crank out the episode, and then obviously, we got a future one coming up in the near future that I'm very excited for because I got 10 great ones, but I'll leave that to the people to find out.
Yeah, for the top 10 albums. We'll do that with more people. I wanted to just do an episode with you that just to kind of talk about you. And
Absolutely.
I think one more question I wanted to ask. I realized we've been on for like 2.5 hours. I didn't even realize. But one thing I wanted to ask too is I remember you saying to me in the beginning that you didn't really ever tell your parents about your music. Was
Oh,
it
true.
was it just something that were your parents pretty hard on you about like you doing music, or was it just something you never really want to share with them, or you were kind of trying to keep in the background of your life? And when they did figure out you were making your own music and releasing it, were they cool with it? Or I get well, and I don't even know how your parents are, because I obviously haven't met them. I haven't really met your family, obviously, so I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know if it was like just something you were doing it for a reason specifically, or kind of what the background of that was for you.
So like when I started music, I didn't want to tell him. I just straight up didn't want to tell him because I was in college and my dad's one of the top pharmaceutical rep sales in the country. And my mom's like she's a jack of all trades, dude. I feel like, but she majored in metaphysical sciences. I mean, she's a published author, so she's a therapist, licensed therapist,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
what's crazy about them though is obviously, I mean, they funded music my whole fucking life, dude. The drums, piano, they bought me both my guitars. So they've always known I was musically inclined and they've heard me rap. I've been with my friends or, even in the car on family vacations, we'll be fucking around as a family and I'll just freestyle some shit and it'll be funny. So they've heard me rap, they've heard me sing, they've heard me do all this. But I didn't tell them about me commercially releasing music. I damn well didn't tell them that I got over 1 million streams because I eventually did tell my mom, but I didn't, and I'm sure my dad found out, and they kind of know now pretty much. But I ended up not telling them is because I didn't want them to think it was something that would kind of hold me back from the professional world of me being in journalism or me being in school and anything like that. And I didn't want them to think that was, I don't know, diverting my focus or anything like that, or even if they loved it, them being too hands on with something I'm really creative with. Even recently, my parents have been like, we've kind of had to, the last couple of years have been like, we've had to like back off and let you do your thing, and that was one thing I was worried about is if they loved what I was doing. And they didn't disapprove of it. If they loved what I was doing, my parents get so fucking hands on, dude. And I didn't want it to be like hockey when I was playing around the country where they're just so hands on because it was either going to go two ways. They're either going to disapprove of it or they're going to love it so much that they wanted to be completely involved. So, but they pretty much know now. I don't think they know the toll of what I've achieved, and even with now, I'm kind of re-debuting as an artist. So this is kind of a new beginning for me, but I didn't want them too involved at the beginning. My idea was that, and even to this day, with my parents not knowing too much about my own music, I kind of want to look up one day and be like, all right, mom, like, dad, I'm signing to this label. Here's the story about how I fucking got here. And then look up at an even later date, like shoot forward in the future and be like, all right, I'm doing a show at fucking State Farm Arena. We sold it out, 20,000 people. I got y'all box seats. Hope y'all enjoy. Like, and they'll get more of the scope of the story then. They'll definitely have more of a scope of everything by then. But, I didn't tell them too much about it because my parents have always known I was musically inclined. I was performing in band. And they've always heard me rap and sing growing up, but I never told them any about my commercial releases. I think they kind of found out through family and friends that would see me on social media because I can't keep it from everybody.
Yeah.
But they don't. They ended up not. They're just kind of like indifferent to it now. They definitely don't hate it at all. But I don't think they truly get the toll, and they definitely don't get the sound of what I'm doing. I told you I grew up in a house where my dad was playing like R&B and soul. My sister was playing like rock. especially but my mom was playing a lot of like pop music. I grew up with everything, and I grew up loving rap and then rock. So I grew up with a little bit of everything, but my sound, I don't think they would fully understand completely. They see the influences, they see my aesthetic and everything, so they get the gist of it, and they've heard through family and friends. But I think that they'll get the full scope when they're sitting up in the box at State Farm Arena or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and I sell that motherfucker out, and they get to be in attendance and truly see some of the songs I worked on from 2019 up to when that day comes. So I kind of like it like that, but I always appreciate their support because regardless whether they know or not, I mean, for my birthday, I asked for all this music equipment, so my dad very much knows what the fuck I'm doing down here. So I just appreciate their support because I know a lot of people don't get the support, and I kept it from them for a long time, but I just love them so much, and I appreciate that shit, and it's gonna be the reason I buy them both a new house. You feel me?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, that's really inspiring, and I get it too, because um, it's the same thing with my family, man. It's like you know, with my family, it's they don't really know anything about my music at all. I think maybe some of my cousins do, but I don't really know my cousins very well, even from here. Now that I'm in Kansas, so it's like, um, and the main reason is because I just don't think they would get it. Like it's not that I even care if they acknowledge or know, or if I do blow up, cool, like that's great, but um, it, to them, I don't think, even if I did blow up, I still don't think they would get it. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's, to me, that's always been my situation and circumstance. But I understand that even with you and your parents, and given that they have careers and what they have, and they want you to go to school, which I think going to school in general, is really important, whether you are on the path of being a successful artist or not, or having any skill sets in general. Like I was talking to that about to my girlfriend, even with Addie, is she's like, oh, she's going to cosmetology school right now, like me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, well, I was thinking of maybe I shouldn't do this, and I should go be an airline attendant, because I think being an airline attendant would be really cool. And then she'll be like, oh, well, maybe I won't like cosmetology, or maybe I won't like airline attendant, and I should just only do cosmetology. And I was like, well, why not do both? Just do both, because there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with pursuing other. It's like how you want to do the restaurant. It's not,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you don't have to stick to, like, you can be like, even the most successful, like, Spencer from Ice Nine Kills. I always reference him because Spencer's not just the lead singer of Ice Nine Kills. He's also, he's an incredible like businessman. Like he absolutely, like, has an incredible business mind for other businesses, but he has his own clothing line, like successful clothing merch that he's launched off, um,
Mm-hmm.
called Cleaver Clothing. That's not related to Ice Nine Kills. Like, he's done all kinds of other avenues in his life, and he has other skill sets, and it's not just um, being the lead singer. And I think it's always good to have those availabilities and options of what you can and can't do. It's what I've always told Addie. It's like, well, for me, it's like, if Nathyn becomes popular and successful, cool, but am I still going to be a producer, and am I still going to be a cosmetologist too? Yes. You know, because what? Why not? You know what I mean? Like, why not just be good at other things too, and still being able to have success in other things? Like, I love Pharrell Williams for that reason. It's because I think even with Pharrell, man, like, he's an incredible producer and he's really talented. Pharrell doesn't, and he's an artist, but Pharrell's just producing other people's music and just hopping on their songs every now and again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, he's doing all kinds of other things, and um, I think that's really, really, really cool. Or even like T-Pain, man. T-Pain's doing live streams on Twitch, and he's playing video games, and he's producing
I'm
music.
getting
And
down at my campus for homecoming, man. That shit was too lit.
yeah, like so it's always good to be able to do all. Life's too short, and it doesn't mean that you can't reach for that thing still and still go for music. I'm still doing Nathyn music, and I'm still going to be releasing my own music and pursuing TikTok, regardless if I'm becoming a cosmetologist and being a producer or not. Um, you have to be. I feel like having more options than none is really important. Especially,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really, really important, and I feel like it will honestly build you to be more successful at the end of the day. Um, so it's good that you're getting also into producing because, like I said, I feel like with your talent and everything that you can do, producing is going to be a perfect fit for you because once you really understand it and get into it, dude, you will be able to make whatever you want and produce it. And whether you're sending it
Mhm.
off to have people mix or master it or not, and then once you start doing your own mixes and masters, that's just a whole other avenue for you is to be a producer too. Like,
Absolutely.
uh, you know, um, for me, when I started Nathyn, it's like I was just trying to produce music, and I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. And then I started recording other people, and then I started building up a clientele. And then once I had a clientele, then I started kind of doing my own music and experimenting. And then I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this, and um,
Mhm.
learning from Justin. And then now I'm at to where I'm at. So I think what you're doing and going to school for what you're doing, especially in something that you're passionate about, like sports still, but you're also pursuing being a successful musician or having a restaurant, why not do all of these things?
Absolutely.
Why
Sure.
why not go for all these things? It doesn't mean that you're like you don't have a vision or anything. I think all of those are visions. Just
Mhm.
focus your energy into what you have to focus it in the given moment and in that given time. And maybe that's going to be more than others at some points. Um, sometimes I
Mhm.
have to produce more. Sometimes I have to think about being in cosmetology more. Sometimes I have to think about doing this or that more. But um, having that balance is really good, though. And I think it creates longevity for you.
Absolutely, man. Yes, sir.
Um, Sorry for the rant, but yeah, man.
No, it was much needed, man. Somebody out there needed to hear that too, man. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, man. It was really good talking to you, and I
Of
appreciate
course.
you just hopping
Having me on
on.
the
And
podcast. I always love being a guest. Looking forward to the next one. Hopefully very soon if we can get everybody on because I know everybody's I'm gonna have so many albums to listen to after that, but I definitely gotta share mine and see where y'all are coming from so that everybody down below, if you listen to this one, y'all gotta tune into the next one because it's a banger.
yes, the next episode we're gonna do is we're gonna have. Hopefully, it will be. Well, it's gonna be you and me, Jordan, probably again. I got this kid that I've been recording named Trevor. He's a really, really good guy. Um, so I'm gonna start recording his music, but he's really into a lot of music. Really good dude. He's from Olive Garden. Um, and
So
this other rapper that's from California that I've been good friends with named Unguided. He's a really sweet guy, really talented too. And we're probably just gonna have like a large Discord where we just talk about these albums and the main influences from all of them. And but yeah, man, I just wanted to do an episode with you though, just to kind of talk about you more and being able to highlight you because I did that one with Jordan and his band Pleaser, so I felt like it was something that I wanted to do with this one. And I appreciate staying on mad late though. I didn't realize it's like almost 1 a.m. there. So
it's all good, man. I appreciate it, man. I love being on, man. So absolutely enjoyed it.
all right, bro. Well, take it easy, man, and just let me know about the music and what you're tracking, and we can just hop on a call. All right.
Absolutely, man. I'm gonna see when our schedules kind of link up too, so we can both make it convenient. But I'm gonna shoot you a text pretty soon so we can kind of coordinate and we can get it done, man. Because I'm excited about the whole thing, man. We're about to make some magic happen.
I am too, man. I'm super stoked about it. I think it's gonna be awesome.
Mhm.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
all right, man. Well, have a good night, and till next time, bro.
Absolutely, man. Have a good night, homie. I'll see you later.
All right, see ya.